After a long while, the bathroom door finally opened. Jiang Yu carried Zhou Jia out and gently laid her on the bed. Zhou Jia felt utterly drained, without even the strength to lift a hand. Lying on the bed, she turned her head to look at Jiang Yu, her beautiful eyes filled with faint resentment. This guy's stamina was simply inhuman. He'd already made Yi Qingxue pay a price earlier. Yet now dealing with her, he still seemed full of boundless energy as if nothing had worn him out. Meanwhile, she felt as if every bone in her body had been pulled apart. Zhou Jia silently complained to herself. Is he even human? Leaning against the headboard, Jiang Yu hid a quiet sense of delight. He was sincerely grateful to his system, whose stat boosts for physical fitness, especially the massive improvement to his endurance, had made everything far easier. He mused that if he were an ox, he could outwork almost any seasoned farm cattle tilling the fields. After resting for a good long while, the resentment in Zhou Jia's heart faded, replaced by a complex, subtle satisfaction. Now Zhao Wei would get to taste the pain of betrayal just as she once had. If he ever found out what had happened, his expression would surely be unforgettable. A faint, involuntary smile tugged at the corners of her lips at the thought. She slowly sat upright, her voice still weak. As she spoke to Jiang Yu, I need to head back. Jiang Yu turned his gaze toward her. Could I borrow some clothes? Zhou Jia glanced down at herself. Her nightgown was nowhere to be found. It was far too ruined to wear anyway. Jiang Yu thought for a moment and opened the player trading market. He traded a small fish to another player for 10 complete sets of clothing and shoes, laying them all across the bed. Zhou Jia's eyes lit up instantly. There were dresses of all different styles. A pale blue floral sundress crafted from soft fabric that fell to the knees with a tied waist. It was both lovely and practical for moving around. There was also an off-white linen maxi dress, simple and elegant with great breathability, perfect for the island's hot climate. Several pairs of casual shorts and t-shirts rounded out the pile. They were less attractive than the dresses, but allowed for far freer movement. Matching footwear came with each outfit. There was a pair of light gray thick-soled durable sneakers, lightweight breathable beige canvas shoes, and brown sandals suited for walking along the shore. Pick one set to change into, Jiang Yu said, gesturing at the pile, then nodded toward one specific ensemble. Take this one to Yi Qingxue. It was a pale yellow chiffon dress dotted with tiny flowers along the neckline. Loose ruffled cuffs lending it an elegant air, paired with flat white sandals. Zhou Jia grabbed a set of clothes and stepped into the bathroom. Minutes later, she emerged again. Jiang Yu glanced up and was struck by how well the outfit suited her. She'd chosen the pale blue floral sundress, which fit her as if tailor-made. The hem stopped just above her knees, revealing fair calves, while the tied waist accentuated her slender figure. She'd slipped on the light gray sneakers, her hair half dry and loose over her shoulders, faint pink blush still lingering on her cheeks. Though her skin still looked slightly parched, it was vastly improved compared to earlier. She looked like an entirely new person. Do I look nice? Zhou Jia asked, noticing Jiang Yu staring at her. Passable, Jiang Yu replied, looking away with a flat tone. Zhou Jia bit her lower lip, overcome by an unaccountable twinge of disappointment. She'd half expected him to ask her to stay, yet he'd said nothing of the sort. Jiang Yu watched her calmly. You and the others can come to my place for food whenever you're hungry, but his tone turned colder as he shifted topics. When I need you, you must come without hesitation. Zhou Jia chewed her lip and did not refuse. She'd already formed a dependent bond with him, and in this post-apocalyptic world, survival outweighed everything. I understand. She took a deep breath to steady her emotions, picked up Yi Qingxue's set of clothes, and pushed open the door to leave. Warm sunlight washed over her as she stepped outside. She drew in a deep breath and walked away. Beneath the large boulder, the women had just been gossiping about Zhou Jia, and they all fell silent when they spotted someone walking from Jiang Yu's dwelling. It was Zhou Jia herself. But once they clearly saw her appearance, every single woman froze in shock. She wore the pale blue floral sundress, hair loose over her shoulders, skin clear and bright, walking with light steps while carrying a cloth bag in her hand. Is that really Zhou Jia? Zhang Meng rubbed her eyes, the rest of the group wearing equally stunned expressions. Just 2 hours prior, Zhou Jia had left wearing a tattered nightgown full of holes, her face ashen, lips cracked and dry, barely able to drag her feet forward. Now she looked completely transformed, dressed in clean, neat garments, washed from head to toe, glowing with vitality without a trace of her former haggard state. In stark contrast, nearly all the women under the boulder were coated in dirt. Their hair was matted like bird nests, lips cracked and peeling. Zhou Jia looked as though she'd come for a beach vacation, while they resembled refugees fleeing disaster. She's clearly allied herself with Jiang Yu now. Megan wanted to make a snide remark, but the sight of Zhou Jiai's renewed vitality made her swallow the words before they left her mouth. Several women who'd previously received rations from Jiang Yu grew restless. Not only did Zhou Jiai have steady food access, she had clean clothes and the chance to bathe, living a life entirely separate from their own hardship. Zhao Mingqi ground her teeth staring at the new sundress. Bastard, why won't he give me nice clothes? Worthless brute, she cursed Jiang Yu silently to herself. Her jealousy flared out of control when she watched Zhou Jiai walk up to Yi Qingxue and pull the new outfit out of the bag. Su Lishuan and Qin Sisi watched Zhou Jiai with complicated eyes. If we go to Jiang Yu's place, could we also bathe, change into clean clothes, and fill our bellies? The thought took root in their minds and refused to fade away. Every other woman present shared the same quiet longing, though none had fully resolved to seek him out. They were weighed down by their constant struggle to find enough to eat. Let's go look for food, someone called out. The women rose one after another, their bodies weak and weary, tramping toward the seashore. Audrey, Megan, and a few others stayed behind. They still held small reserves of food. Aside from the sushi Wang Yan Huanai had shared earlier, the rest kept their distance from the group. It was not cruelty. Their supplies were far too scarce to share without going hungry themselves. The other women made no move to steal their rations, at least not yet. They trekked along the beach, clambering over jagged rocks to hunt for any edible resource they could find. They'd combed nearly every inch of the island over the past few days. All the shellfish, seaweed, and small crabs had been picked clean. If their luck did not turn, there would be nothing left to forage by tomorrow. Ah, there's a fish over here. Just as despair settled over the women, Zhang Ming let out a sharp cry. The rest rushed to her side. Trapped in a shallow tide pool ringed with rocks lay a massive fish weighing roughly 10 jin. A deep gash sliced its flank, likely from a far larger predator. It had struggled into the shallow water before becoming stranded. Hurry, pull it out before it slips back. Su Lishuan, Qin Sisi, and the others discarded all sense of propriety, splashing into the pool. They heaved the fish onto dry ground together. They stared at the giant catch, eyes shining with hunger. This will feed all of us for an entire day. Joy spread across every woman's face. Discovering the large fish chased away much of their overwhelming despair. They checked the tide pool afterward. Rainwater had filled it halfway, enough drinking water to sustain them for a day or two. This was if rationed carefully. The water was murky and clouded with sediment, yet after all they'd endured, none dared to waste a single drop. Clean water was a luxury they could no longer complain about. Jiang Yu had wasted several hours resting indoors, but after glancing at the clear, sunny sky outside, he resolved to head out and catch more fish. The sun blazed overhead, yet Jiang Yu was fully prepared. He traded through the player market for sunglasses, a wide-brimmed sun hat, and even sunscreen, ready for a leisurely fishing trip. Zhao Mingqi had been cleaning the large fish the other women caught. Having already eaten instant noodles earlier, she scoffed inwardly watching the group's elation over their meager prize. A single beat-up fish is nothing to celebrate. Her thoughts were interrupted when she spotted him, walking out the door. Her face lit up at once. She scrambled to her feet, brushed sand off her clothes, and hurried after him. Jiang Yu, are you going fishing? Let me help you. Her voice softened, wearing a bright, sweet smile. Jiang Yu shot her a cold glance and said nothing, continuing forward. Zhao Mingqi quickly caught on and lowered her voice. Master, please let me accompany you. She followed closely at his heels. A faint smile tugged at Jiang Yu's lips, yet he made no move to send her away. Yi Qingxue and Zhou Jiai exchanged a glance. Both had formed an alliance with Jiang Yu, and they could not simply sit idle while he went to gather food. Come on, we'll go lend a hand too. Yi Qingxue stood and walked after him, Zhou Jiai silently trailing beside her. Their reasoning was straightforward. As people relying on Jiang Yu for survival, they ought to contribute labor, unlike Zhao Mingqi, who schemed constantly for favors. The remaining women watched the three depart for his side. They looked with mixed expressions before turning their attention back to the stranded fish. Zhao Mingqi seethed inwardly at Yi Qingxue and Zhou Jiai tagging along, yet she masked her resentment behind a calm facade. She gritted her teeth quietly. Why are those two women following us? They clearly want to compete with me for his favor. She dared not voice her anger, forced to hold her peace. Jiang Yu glanced back at the three women trailing him, but did not send them off, speaking flatly. You may come fishing with me, but do not get in my way. The three nodded obediently, falling into line behind him like quiet attendants. Jiang Yu led them to the western rocky shore of the island, an area he had not yet explored. The rock formations here were far larger, and the sea ran deeper beneath the waves. Surf crashed against the stones, spraying white foam into the air. The tide had not yet receded, and silvery flashes of fish darted through the shallows. Every few moments. The tide's too high for net fishing right now. We'll start with spearfishing instead. Jiang Yu gripped his fish spear and waded straight into the seawater, the three women standing to watch. They knew he was skilled at catching fish. He'd reeled in 3 large specimens on his first day on the island. But spearfishing demanded precise skill, and they wondered if he could master it. Jiang Yu stood motionless in the water, his gaze fixed steadily on the surface. After a moment, his wrist snapped forward, driving the spear deep into the waves. When he lifted it back up, a silver-black sea bream wriggled impaled on the tip, thrashing wildly. The three women's eyes widened with admiration. Zhao Mengshi reacted fastest, splashing into the water without hesitation, rushing over with a bucket. "Wow, master, you're incredible. This fish is huge." Her face showed genuine awe, not just performative flattery. That woman truly knows how to bow and scrape to get what she wants. Yi Qingxue and Zhou Jiai frowned silently. Neither could match her thick skin. Jiang Yu pried the fish free from the spear and hefted it to gauge its weight. Roughly 3 jin, not bad. On the eastern rocks 2 days prior, he'd spent hours spearfishing and only caught tiny minnows. To land a 3 jin fish on his first try lifted his spirits greatly. Over the next hour, Jiang Yu speared catch after catch, a 2 jin eel, a 3 jin silver pomfret, and 2 half-jin yellow croakers. He also pried several palm-sized green crabs from rock crevices. All 3 women waded into the water to help him load the catch into buckets. Watching his abundant haul, Yi Qingxue reflected silently. Allying myself with him in this apocalypse was undoubtedly the wisest choice. Zhou Jiai shared the exact same thought. The man could be overbearing, yet his capability to secure food guaranteed they would never starve as long as they stayed with him. After an hour of spearfishing, Jiang Yu grew slightly fatigued. "That's enough spearing. Let's switch methods." He climbed back onto the rocks, retrieved a foldable fishing rod, assembled it skillfully, baited the hook, and cast his line out. Zhao Mengshi immediately stepped behind him and began kneading his shoulders firmly. "Master, you must be tired. Let me rub your shoulders for you." Her massage technique was surprisingly professional, applying just the right pressure. Jiang Yu closed his eyes, relaxing into the sensation. "You know how to do this?" Savoring his obvious comfort, Zhao Mengshi hid her pride and replied softly, "I learned a little before." In a world like this, mastering extra skills always helps. Jiang Yu did not press her for details. He could easily guess she'd relied on more than just her looks to navigate relationships with men. Before the end of the world, that skill had likely won Liao Hai over as well. By contrast, Yi Qingxue and Zhou Jiai were far clumsier helpers, tasked with mixing bait and scooping fish out of the water. Yi Qingxue had never prepared fishing bait before. She added too much water, coating her hands in sticky paste, and even smearing a streak across her cheek, looking flustered. Zhou Jiai stood ready with a landing net. Yet when a fish bit the line, she panicked and swung the net wide, missing entirely. The fish nearly slipped free of the hook. This was only stopped when Jiang Yu reacted instantly, spearing it mid-escape. "You two are all thumbs." Jiang Yu glanced at them with a neutral tone. Both women sank into dejection, feeling useless. For the first time, a strange sense of loss settled over them unbidden. Jiang Yu noticed their downcast expressions, yet made no move to comfort them. "If you don't know how to do something, pay attention and learn. Don't mope like that." They nodded quietly. "We understand." Zhao Mengshi watched the exchange from behind him, silently elated, massaging his shoulders with even more vigor. They fished with the rod for another hour, reeling in only 2 decent-sized fish, a 2 jin sea bass and a 1.5 jin red snapper. Jiang Yu tossed all small fry back into the ocean. As the tide receded, he unfurled a fishing net and cast it into the shallows, hauling in 3 more fish, including 1 massive specimen over 10 jin in weight. This marked his most productive day since arriving on the island. "We're done for the day." The 3 women had worn themselves out helping him haul and sort the catch. Even as mere laborers, they felt a quiet sense of accomplishment, gazing at the piles of fresh seafood. Yi Qingxue and Zhou Jiai, though criticized for their clumsiness at first, had grown steadily more competent and stopped hindering his work by the end of the outing. Elsewhere, the other women continued struggling with their single large fish. Their initial excitement faded fast once they realized they possessed no knives, cookware, or seasoning, staring helplessly at the raw catch. "How are we supposed to prepare it?" Smash it open with stones and roast it over fire. Jin Tianying asked. The women considered asking Jiang Yu to borrow supplies, yet they knew his harsh personality. He would refuse outright. Su Lishuan thought for a moment and spoke up. We can try cutting it open with sharp seashells, slice the meat thin, and roast it over flames. Chen Sisi added another idea. We can soak the slices in seawater first to cut the fishy odor. Will that even be edible? It's better than starving to death. Driven by desperate hunger, the women set to work with whatever crude tools they could scavenge. After hours of labor, they managed to start a small fire. They propped the fish slices above the flames to roast. They would not go to bed empty-handed that night, granting them faint hope for the days ahead. Unbeknownst to them, danger was silently drawing near. 200 nautical miles away from the island, a white yacht cut through the waves, sailing steadily southeast. The vessel measured roughly 13 meters long, its hull marked with scrapes and dents. Dried black blood splattered across the cabin windows and deck. 7 or 8 men stood at the bow, all ragged and caked in old blood, exhaustion etched deep into their faces. At their head stood a 40-year-old man. He had a buzz cut, his gaze sharp and ruthless. He went shirtless, a roaring tiger tattoo sprawling across his muscular chest, though hunger left his frame gaunt and hollow. His name was Lei Hu, a fugitive wanted for murder. He was wanted long before the apocalypse arrived. Behind him stood a crew of men, all gaunt, lips cracked and parched, feral, animalistic glints flickering in their eyes. Ugu, the brothers can't hold on much longer. A 20-something young man stepped forward, his voice hoarse and raspy. We've only eaten 2 raw fish in the past 2 days. If we don't find more food soon, we'll starve long before we reach land. Lei Hu stared out over the endless ocean without speaking, then twisted his head to glance through the filthy cabin glass. 4 women huddled cramped inside the cabin, their clothing torn and disheveled. Dark bruises covered their skin, their eyes hollow and empty as if stripped of all will to live. Originally, more than 20 people had been teleported onto this yacht at the start of the apocalypse, forming a loose group. Lei Hu and his gang had spawned on tiny barren reefs instead. When they spotted the yacht, they pretended to be dying of starvation to beg for rescue. Several overly compassionate people aboard the boat came to offer aid, only for Lei Hu's men to launch a sudden, brutal attack, slaughtering nearly 20 passengers, including the kind-hearted rescuers. Only a few women with attractive appearances were kept alive. Over the past few days, they had eaten every bit of food on the yacht. Through survival of the fittest, only 8 people remained in their group. Yesterday afternoon, they barely caught 2 fish. It was split between them and nowhere near enough to fill their stomachs. At that moment, crippling hunger gnawed at every one of them. Brother Hu, what are you planning to do? A young man stared at Lei Hu in confusion. Lei Hu finally spoke, a cruel grin spreading across his face. Who said we have no food left? He tilted his chin toward the women locked in the cabin. Aren't they right there? We can use them to tide us over. We can use them until we reach land. The young men froze for a moment before grasping his meaning. Their gazes fixed on the women, growing cold and menacing. In just a handful of days, they had fully adapted. They adapted to the brutal rules of the end times. The strong prey on the weak. Hee, I may not be the sharpest, but I followed the right leader. Brother Hu, you're brilliant, the young man fawned. The women inside the cabin could feel the group's stares bearing down on them. They huddled together in the corner, trembling from head to toe. Though worn and battered, their striking good looks were still plain to see. It was precisely because of their appearances that Lei Hu and his gang had tormented them endlessly these past days. Covered in fresh wounds, the women no longer even had the strength to cry. Overhearing the conversation outside, despair washed over them. Yet none begged for mercy. Pleading with men who acted less human than beasts would be useless. Death, they thought, might be a merciful release. The yacht cut a white wake across the open sea, sailing steadily onward. Lost with no way to pinpoint their location, they could only head straight in one direction. That course led straight to the island where Jiang Yu resided. On the island, inside Jiang Yu's hut, Yi Qingxue, Zhou Jiai, and Zhao Mengqi sat gathered around a wooden table. A large basin of pickled fish sat at its center. Tender white fillets floated in golden broth, the rich aroma of pickled mustard and chili peppers filling the air. Beside it steamed a pot of white rice. Jiang Yu leaned back in his chair, legs crossed, watching the 3 women eat. Yi Qingxue lifted a slice of fish to her lips, and her beautiful eyes lit up instantly. The fish meat was silky and tender, the finest meal she had tasted in 3 days. Zhou Jiai ate with quiet restraint, yet her chopsticks never paused. Zhao Mingqi threw all sense of propriety aside. Her mouth glistened with oil as she ate ravenously. By contrast, Jiang Yu ate with deliberate elegance, a stark contrast that would have struck anyone from before the end times as odd. He had prepared the 2 small fish and cooked this feast as a reward, seeing how hard the 3 women had worked that day. The 3 women shoveled down every bite, finishing every grain of rice without a scrap left over. Setting down their bowls and chopsticks afterward, they sighed in deep satisfaction. It had been far too long since they had eaten their fill. Then, remembering the work they owed for the meal, they turned to him. They turned their eyes to Jiang Yu. "Once you finish cleaning up, the 2 of you may head back first," Jiang Yu said faintly, glancing at Zhao Mengqi and Zhou Jia. He believed in balancing work and rest. They had exerted themselves heavily that day, so only Yi Qingxue needed to stay behind to keep him company. The others deserved a break. None of the women argued. They tidied the table and washed the dishes. They washed without complaint, and the 2 prepared to leave afterward. As Zhao Mengqi reached the doorway, Jiang Yu called out to her, "Wait a moment." Zhao Mengqi spun around quickly. Jiang Yu retrieved a set of clothes from the wardrobe, blue denim shorts, a plain white short-sleeved t-shirt, and a pair of canvas sneakers. "Take these with you." Zhao Mengqi's face lit up. She took the bundle. Thank you, master." She bowed respectfully, her voice thick with delight. Jiang Yu merely gave a slight nod. He had secretly checked his loyalty interface moments earlier. He had seen Zhao Mengqi's loyalty score climb from 15 to 35. She knew her place and acted sensibly, so he'd gifted her the clothes as encouragement. Clutching her new outfit tightly, Zhao Mengqi left the hut overjoyed. Yi Qingxue stepped to Jiang Yu's side and spoke softly. "What should I change into tonight?" A faint smile tugged at Jiang Yu's lips. Beneath a large boulder, the other women sat sharing thin strips of grilled fish. The meat tasted bland and carried a strong fishy stench, yet to them it was a precious delicacy. Su Lishuan only ate 3 or 4 strips before stopping short. She forced herself to conserve food. She was uncertain if they would find anything to eat the next day. The rest followed suit, stashing the leftover fish away after just 2 or 3 bites each. That night, the women leaned against the rock. They were heavy with drowsiness. They had endured days of exhaustion, hunger, and unrelenting anxiety. With a little food in their stomachs, they slipped into far deeper sleep. In the pre-dawn hours, a system announcement echoed inside every woman's head, jolting them awake. Ding! The 3rd day of the end times has concluded. Global survivor tally in progress. Initial player population, 10 billion. Current survivors, 4.7 billion. Death toll today, 1.5 billion. Primary causes of death, zombie attacks, mutated beast assaults, conflicts between survivor groups, internal group violence, starvation. All players, keep striving to survive through the trial period. Chills ran through the women at those staggering numbers. Over 6 billion people had perished in less than 4 days. They counted themselves incredibly lucky to still be alive. Hunger plagued them, yes, but at least they faced no zombies, mutated creatures, or violent clashes among their own group. "Sleep some more. We'll need to search for food tomorrow," one woman murmured. Too worn out to stay awake, they closed their eyes and fell back into slumber. Just past 6 the next morning, the sun crested the horizon, spilling golden light across the sea's surface. The women roused one by one. Zhang Meng rubbed her eyes, stood and stretched, then glanced habitually out over the water. Her breath caught in shock. What's that?" The other women followed the direction of her pointing finger. Far out on the waves, a vessel was sailing straight toward their island. "It's a boat. Other people are coming." "Really? This might mean rescue for us," several women cried out in excitement. Yi Qingxue narrowed her eyes, staring hard at the craft for several seconds. Her frown deepened by the second. A heavy sense of unease settled over her heart. "Quiet yourselves. Those people may not mean well. Hide here at once, and I'll go find Jiang Yu." With that, she turned and sprinted toward Jiang Yu's hut at a hurried pace. Jiang Yu was still asleep. He had worn himself out the night before, and though his physical stamina had doubled, thanks to his upgrades, he prioritized rest to preserve his strength. A rapid string of knocks pounded against the door. Jiang Yu opened his eyes with a scowl, climbed out of bed, and pulled the door open. Yi Qingxue stood outside, gasping for breath, her face pale. "What's wrong?" Jiang Yu could tell from her frazzled state that something serious had happened, and he asked curiously. "A boat is sailing toward the island from the open sea." Yi Qingxue gasped, forcing calm into her voice. "Boats rarely appear this far out in the end times, and I have a terrible feeling they intend harm. I came straight to you. What should we do now?" Though steady by nature, she was still only a woman. Faced with an unknown threat, she had no one to rely on but Jiang Yu. Hearing her words, Jiang Yu's brows drew tight. He strode to the window and peered out over the water. Sure enough, a white yacht drew steadily closer, less than 2 nautical miles from the shore. His enhanced eyesight let him make out several human figures standing on its bow. A cold glint flashed across Jiang Yu's features. No matter their intentions, we must prepare for the worst, he said gravely to Yi Qingxue. Back on the yacht, Lei Hu's group wore wide, elated grins. Brother Hu, haha, we've finally found an island. You're so sharp, we only just finished dealing with the women on board, and land appears right away. Akuin pointed wildly at the island, unable to contain his excitement. The other men shared his joy. Adrift on the sea for days without a scrap of proper food, spotting land felt like winning the lottery. Through the cabin windows, the bodies of 4 women lay motionless inside, bearing clear signs of brutal harm. The night prior, Lei Hu and his gang had tried to force their will on one of the women. The other 3 had flown into a desperate rage, rushing to attack them. Enraged, the men had beaten all 4 to death. Unwilling to waste a potential food source if they remained lost at sea, they had not tossed the bodies overboard. Lei Hu squinted at the island, a slow, vicious smile spreading across his face. Fortune favors us against all odds. Our small group has survived this long. What danger could stop us? We're bound to carve out a place for ourselves in this ruined world. His empty promises lit hopeful fire in the other men's eyes. Of course, Brother Hu. Following you is the greatest luck we could ask for. Akuin flattered him again. Exactly. We got to take our fill of those beautiful women just now. They never would have spared us a glance before the end times. A short, stocky man chimed in with sycophancy. At that moment, one of the younger gang members suddenly pointed toward the island, voice uncertain. Brother Hu, I think there are people on that land. Every head snapped toward the shore. Lei Hu's eyes narrowed, his expression turning dark. Settlements of survivors were not always a good thing in this era. If the island held another armed group, if they were as ruthless as theirs, a bloody fight would be inevitable. Over there, behind the boulders, I see silhouettes, all women. More than a dozen, at least. Another man held up a solar-charged cell phone. He zoomed in with the camera function to spot the cluster of women by the rocks. All the men crowded around to look. The screen image was blurry, but they could tell the women were pleasant to look at. Haha, Brother Hu, we've struck gold. Akuin shouted in delight. Their group can't have more than 20 people total. Even if they have men, their numbers match ours. We can take them. A cruel, greedy grin split Lei Hu's face. Men, get ready to go ashore. Great gains come with risk. We've come this far, we won't turn back. Kill every man we find on the island. And keep all the women alive for our use. He licked his lips, staring at the island like a starving wolf eyeing its prey. After Yi Qingxue left to find Jiang Yu, the women huddled behind the boulders. They exchanged worried glances. Days of listening to desperate global broadcasts and hearing endless accounts of violent atrocities had taught them that an incoming boat was rarely a good sign. Yet a bitter argument broke out. It broke out among them. If the yacht's passengers were violent criminals, how could a group of defenseless women possibly stand against them? Despair weighed heavy on most of their hearts. How could this happen? We've clung on for so long, only for dangerous men to show up. Is there truly nothing we can do? Jean Tunning stared at the approaching yacht, her voice thick with grief and hopelessness. Zhang Meng, who had first spotted the vessel, trembled with terror. Broadcasts are full of stories of murder and plunder. Women suffer far worse fates at the hands of these roaming gangs. We're all decent-looking. If they reach us, death would be kinder than whatever they'll do. Recounting the countless tragedies shared across the global channel, every woman shuddered, dreading the torture they might face. Su Lishuan cut through their panic quickly. This is no time to wallow in fear. Hide yourselves right now before they spot us. The island is tiny. Where can we possibly go? They'll hunt us down the second they step onto land. Hilton scanned their sparse surroundings, her spirit broken. Zhou Jia spoke up calmly. Qingxue went to get Jiang Yu. He might have a plan. Let's hide and wait for her to return with news. Many of the women shook their heads doubtfully. Megan scoffed. How could one single man stand against a whole boat of violent strangers? Her words sank the group deeper into despair. Zhao Mingqi stood her ground. What other choice do we have if we don't trust him? Jiang Yu is far stronger than any ordinary survivor. She avoided using the honorific master in front of the others. After receiving the new clothes the day before, Zhao Mingqi harbored no rebellious thoughts toward him. She knew defiance gained her nothing. Her best path forward was unwavering loyalty. The moment she finished speaking, Megan shot her a sarcastic look. That man only cares for himself. Do you truly believe he'll risk himself to save us all? Remember, his hut blocks outsiders from entering. What if he locks himself inside and lets those criminals run wild across the island? Every woman's face paled at that thought. Reflecting on Jiang Yu's detached behavior these past days, they all feared Megan's prediction would come true. Zhou Jia countered. If those men are vicious, they'll target Jiang Yu eventually. He won't stay safe hiding inside his walls forever. Her reasoning reignited a flicker of hope within the group. But their lengthy bickering had cost them precious time. Lei Hu's gang had already caught sight of their figures on the rocks. On the yacht, spotting the women gathered on shore spurred the men to rev the engine and speed toward land. Inside his hut, Jiang Yu stood at the window, watching the yacht draw nearer, his brow furrowed tight. This situation looks grim. Time was running short. He immediately opened the system goods marketplace and searched for firearms. Pistols, rifles, submachine guns lined the inventory, but their prices were absurdly high, costing hundreds of jin of rice apiece, far more supplies than he owned. Gritting his teeth, Jiang Yu switched over to the player trading market to seek out weapons. He tried to acquire firearms, only for the system's warning tone to ring out. Detected players single forever 250 attempting to acquire firearms. Friendly reminder, you are the sole global player with an all-female ally group. The system will raise survival difficulty to maintain balanced gameplay. You are prohibited from purchasing any firearms. Jiang Yu nearly cursed aloud. Come on, system, are you really working against me? Hostiles are about to storm the island, and you crank up the difficulty? The system offered no reply. Jiang Yu took a deep breath to calm his frustration. If guns were off the table, he would trade for other tools instead. He bartered a bucket of instant noodles for a compact stun device, pepper spray, and a machete. The system enforced strict limits on how many self-defense items any single player could obtain. Is this really the best support you can give me? He muttered, feeling cheated by the system's restrictions. He traded for a spare set of clothes and swimming gear next. These common survival goods were cheap, costing him only a single bucket of instant noodles in total. With the supplies secured, he felt marginally more confident, but he was not satisfied yet. He bartered half a bucket of noodles for a waterproof, drop-resistant walkie-talkie with a 5-kilometer effective range, rushing the trade to get it in time for the incoming threat. Once all his gear was gathered, Jiang Yu let out a long breath of relief. He turned to find Yi Qingxue standing quietly beside him, waiting for his orders. Truthfully, Jiang Yu's first instinct was to barricade himself inside the hut. He cared little what became of the other women. Their fates were none of his concern. Yet a lingering hesitation held him back. Sensing his conflict, Yi Qingxue spoke. Jiang Yu, I know you hold no attachment to the rest of us, not even me. She spoke coolly, analyzing the scenario like weighing a business investment. But logically, saving these women will bring you far greater long-term benefits than abandoning them. I suspect there is a deeper reason the system transported so many of us to this island to ally with you. Protecting them serves your own interests. Jiang Yu glanced up at her. Her reasoning aligned perfectly with his own unspoken thoughts. Very well, he nodded. Go tell all of them to stay completely silent. Anyone who stirs up trouble will answer to me once this crisis passes. I'll make sure they understand. Yi Qingxue exhaled in quiet relief. Jiang Yu reviewed their battle plan with her, then pressed the stun device and pepper spray into her hands, along with one walkie-talkie. Keep this channel open at all times. Contact me instantly if anything happens. Yi Qingxue nodded, grabbed the equipment, and sprinted back toward the boulders. Jiang Yu grabbed his fishing spear and the machete off the wall, slipped out the back door, and crept quickly toward the southern beach. The yacht approached from the northwest and would likely drop anchor on the western shore. He planned to circle around to the jagged western reefs to ambush the gang as they landed, hoping to take down several of them before they reached the island's interior. Yi Qingxue raced back to the boulders, where the women huddled behind stone cover, overcome with fright. Sister Yi, what did Jiang Yu say? Su Lishuan rushed forward to meet her. Yi Qingxue lowered her voice, speaking sternly to the whole group. Listen closely, everyone. These men on the yacht are almost certainly dangerous. But Jiang Yu is going to intercept them. The women relaxed slightly after hearing this. But what are we supposed to do? Yi Qingxue recounted everything Jiang Yu had told her. If those men question you, tell them there are 3 men on the island, brothers Jiang Yu and Jiang Chun, plus a man named Lu Jian. The women exchanged uneasy glances but nodded. They were far from foolish and understood the reasoning behind this lie. Aside from that, tell them the truth about everything else, otherwise they will definitely grow suspicious. If they try to harm any of you, I will handle them. Remember, do not blow our cover. Just think about what would happen if we were captured by a group of hostile men. At those words, every woman shuddered, too terrified to imagine such a fate. Jiang Yu warned that anyone who sabotages our plan will face his wrath. Yi Qingxue delivered this final warning before leading the women toward Jiang Yu's house, as they had agreed beforehand. However, Megan, Hilton, Talon the supermodel from Ross, Kim Taeyeon Sakura from Sakura Nation, and Kamani from Siam Nation hesitated for a moment, then headed up the slope. "Where are you going?" Su Lishuan called out. Megan curled her lip. "That self-serving man won't lift a finger to save us. We'll find somewhere to hide on our own." With that, they continued climbing the hill, planning to flee toward the southern end of the island. "Leave them be." Yi Qingxue glanced after them and made no move to stop them. Fewer women in their group meant the intruders would be less likely to connect them to the online figure, Single Forever 250. At the western reef zone, Jiang Yu had already picked out an ambush spot. The area was covered in dense rock formations, perfect for concealment. Some towered 2 to 3 meters high, others only reaching waist height. He crouched behind a large boulder, peering through a crack out at the sea. The yacht drew steadily closer, and Jiang Yu spotted Lei Hu and his men standing on its deck. Lei Hu gripped a fire axe whose blade glinted sharply. 8 of them. Jiang Yu counted silently, his heart sinking. He cursed under his breath. He would have to fight with everything he had. Though his body had been strengthened by the system, he knew better than to think he could defeat 8 opponents single-handedly. He kept his eyes fixed on the yacht, waiting for the right opening. On the boat, Lei Hu's crew caught sight of the women scattering in flight. "They can't run far. This island is tiny. We'll hunt every last one down," one subordinate said with a malicious grin. "Playing cat and mouse with them will make this far more entertaining," another man chimed in. Lei Hu's gaze locked onto Jiang Yu's wooden house. "It's strange to find a building on this deserted island. Stay alert once we land." His men nodded, though they thought his caution unnecessary. Still, the sight of so many women sent restless excitement surging through them. A handful of women would have stirred them, but nearly 20 left them barely able to contain their eagerness. Shortly after, the yacht docked at the shore. Lei Hu jumped off first, breathing in the coastal air heavily. Finally, solid ground under our feet. He narrowed his eyes to scan the surroundings. "Watch your backs. The island's inhabitants have seen us, and there may be ambushes waiting. Take out the men first, then we'll deal with the women at our leisure." "Don't worry, boss," one man laughed loudly. "Nearly 20 women, more than enough to split between all of us. Unlike last time, we won't have to hold back for fear of hurting them too badly." The overweight man bringing up the rear was mid-sentence when a shrill scream tore from his throat. The rest spun around in shock to see blood bursting from his chest as he crumpled backward onto the sand. Standing atop the yacht's bow was Jiang Yu, watching Lei Hu's crew with a mocking smile. "Welcome to the island. My brothers and I are going to give you quite the fight." "Kill him," Lei Hu roared. His men scrambled back onto the yacht to charge at Jiang Yu. But Jiang Yu shot them a taunting look, dove into the seawater, and vanished without a trace. "Damn it! Don't let us catch you, you coward!" A Kun shouted toward the waves. Though several of the men could swim, they dared not jump in blind, unaware of hidden dangers beneath the surface. Losing a crew member before they even fully set foot on land darkened Lei Hu's mood severely. "Chen Gang, Yin Liang, you two guard the yacht. Don't let anyone sneak aboard. Stay sharp, or you'll end up like Fengzi." He fixed them with a menacing stare. The 2 men nodded hastily. "We won't let anyone get past us. Hu Gu." "Yes, Hu Gu." This sudden casualty put the remaining crew on high alert. Lei Hu took 4 men with him and marched toward Jiang Yu's house, moving along scattered, close-spaced paths to avoid easy ambush. 100 meters away, Jiang Yu hid behind another reef. Watching Lei Hu's group head for the house, he raised his walkie-talkie to warn Yi Qingxue and the others to stay vigilant. He planned to eliminate the 2 yacht sentries first before rejoining them. He assumed Lei Hu's gang would not kill the women outright, so they faced no immediate fatal danger. Even if 1 or 2 were injured, he could only feel regret. Protecting every single person against 8 armed intruders was an impossible task, and they would have to rely on their own luck. He had no intention of locking all the women inside the house to fight the gang alone. Jiang Yu stowed the walkie-talkie, stripped off his t-shirt and beach shorts, and pulled on swim trunks along with diving goggles, the gear he had exchanged for earlier, hidden under a rock behind the reef. Once fully equipped, he waited until Lei Hu's figures disappeared into the distance. He took a deep breath and plunged into the ocean. Holding his breath, he swam along the seabed beside the reefs, heading straight for the yacht. On the boat, the 2 sentries sat on the deck, on constant edge. One was stocky Chen Gang, the other tall and thin Yin Liang. They scanned the shore warily while chatting. "Do you think Hu Gu will find supplies on the island?" Chen Gang rubbed his rounded stomach. Hunger had thinned him drastically over the past few days. There are dozens of women alive here, so there must be food, Yin Liang replied. Once Huge takes care of the island's men, we'll have our chance to search the whole place. Life after the end of the world really has its perks, Yin Liang said. We can hunt for supplies freely and take whatever we want without restraint. Chen Gang had worked as a security guard in an upscale residential complex before the collapse, constantly watching well-dressed women pass by with no way to interact with them. Now everything was different. He had already crossed paths with women on their yacht and ached to meet more on the island. He licked his lips at the thought. Yin Liang shared his eager expression. I was stuck with an unpleasant wife before the disaster and couldn't leave her for fear of loneliness. These days, we meet new people every night. Even with constant hunger, at least we have company. The two chuckled quietly, completely oblivious to the dark shape gliding through the water toward them. Jiang Yu surfaced at the yacht's stern, listening to their conversation as a cold smirk tugged at his lips. The two men were too vigilant to attack directly from the water, so he swam back to the shore and emerged from the waves. Who's there? Chen Gang and Yin Liang had never let their guard down. Spotting him the second his head broke the water. They stood less than 5 meters apart, staring at Jiang Yu. They froze in confusion. He matched the man who had killed Fengzi earlier, yet wore different clothes and gripped a fishing spear. Jiang Yu wasted no words and charged forward with the spear raised. You're asking for death. Yin Liang and Chen Gang brandished steel pipes, torn loose from the yacht. They were unafraid of the lone attacker. They had killed many people in recent days and carried a vicious confidence in their own strength. Their confidence was misplaced. Jiang Yu's system-enhanced body doubled his speed and strength, and he was well rested, unlike the exhausted pair facing him. He leaped onto the yacht in one fluid motion, driving the spear straight for Yin Liang's chest with brutal force. Yin Liang failed to anticipate his explosive speed and jump. Panicked, he dodged sideways and swung his pipe. Jiang Yu ducked low, evading the strike, grabbed the pipe, and wrenched it hard. A sharp cry burst from Yin Liang as intense pain flared through his palms, forcing him to release the metal. Jiang Yu thrust the spear forward, burying its tip deep in Yin Liang's chest. Blood splattered across the deck. Yin Liang stared wide-eyed, clutching the spear as he slowly collapsed. He was gurgling blood and unable to speak. Huge, help me! Chen Gang paled with terror, abandoning his pipe and diving into the sea to flee. You're foolish to run into the water with me here, Jiang Yu sneered, yanking the spear free and diving after him. Moments later, a corpse floated to the surface 10 meters from the yacht. Chen Gang's, his eyes still wide with raw terror. Jiang Yu climbed back onto the yacht, having defeated the two sentries in mere minutes. He turned his gaze toward Lei Hu's group, halfway up the hillside. Chen Gang's scream had drawn their attention, and they watched him dive after the fleeing sentry. When Jiang Yu alone reappeared on the yacht, they knew Chen Gang was dead. Lei Hu's face turned livid with unbridled rage. Huge, this man's clothes don't match the attacker from before. There must be two of them. A Kun pointed at Jiang Yu. Lei Hu ground his teeth, having noticed the difference himself. There are multiple men on this island. They know the terrain, and we've walked straight into their ambush, he said darkly. Should we head back, Huge? A Kun whispered. Lei Hu glanced between the yacht and the distant wooden house, forcing his anger under control. Retreating won't solve anything. More ambushes could wait for us on the beach. We'll go to the house first and capture a few women to question. He lowered his voice to the rest of his crew. Stick close together, don't split off alone. They dare not fight us head-on, which means they're outnumbered. We still hold the advantage. The men's anxiety faded slightly at his words. They tightened their grips on their weapons. They quickened their pace toward the house. Lei Hu shot one last venomous glare at Jiang Yu on the yacht. Enjoy your moment of victory, you brute. I will settle this score with you. With that, Lei Hu gritted his teeth and led his men forward at a brisk pace. Jiang Yu watched their retreating figures, narrowed his eyes, jumped off the yacht, and sprinted toward the house. The women's safety now rests entirely on their own luck. He grabbed the walkie-talkie as he ran. By this time, Yi Qingxue and the other women had reached the house. They were able to clearly see Lei Hu's group closing in fast. Jiang Yu had warned her earlier that the men bore dried blood on their skin, marking them as dangerous criminals. Yi Qingxue could not deny her fear, yet with so many armed foes approaching, she knew they had to hold their own. The rest of the women also watched the advancing gang, their faces twisting with unease. Yi Qingxue studied their expressions and spoke firmly. Anyone too afraid to stay may leave now. Li Jiyun, Deng Yuzhen, Audrey, Mavika, Kamiva, and Wang Charan exchanged glances. Li Jiyun bit her lip and spoke. We'll leave. If they pressure us, we might accidentally reveal the truth. The others nodded. their faces filled with guilt. Yi Qingxue did not blame them and turned to the remaining women. Anyone else who wants to run should go now. You all know what will happen if our cover is blown. Zhang Ming, Qin Fei, and several others hesitated before standing their ground, choosing to stay. Li Ji-un's group fled in scattered directions, overcome with panic. Yi Qingxue glanced at Zhao Mingqi, who trembled visibly but shook her head. I understand the consequences, I won't slip up. Yi Qingxue frowned slightly but said nothing, turning to comfort the remaining women. Don't be afraid. Jiang Yu will come to protect us. The walkie-talkie crackled to life right then. Jiang Yu's breathless voice carried over the line as he ran. I've taken out 3 of them, 5 remain. Stall them as long as you can, and lure them inside the house if possible. Remind yourselves, never admit there is only one man on the island, or you will face terrible consequences. The transmission cut off after that. Yi Qingxue switched off the device. She tossed it into a nearby bush. Lei Hu and his 4 men reached the house shortly after, spotting the group of frightened women gathered beside the building, plus several others who had already fled out of sight. They paid little mind to the runaways. They were confident they could track them down later. The women before them were more than enough for their purposes. So many women. Akun's eyes widened. And every single one is beautiful. Lei Hu's gaze swept slowly over the group, a grim smirk spreading across his face. Our luck is outstanding today. Even he felt drawn to Yi Qingxue and the others, licking his lips as he gripped his fire axe and strode faster. The other 3 men stared greedily. I recognize many of these women, famous faces from before the disaster. We've struck gold. Even if something goes wrong later, meeting women like this will be worth it. The women saw their unmasked, hungry stares, and despite their prior preparations, fresh panic washed over them. Will we make it through this? Zhang Ming regretted not running away earlier. They're almost here. Su Lishuan suddenly stumbled backward, her voice shaking. Lu Jian, come quickly. I'm so scared. Zhang Ming caught on instantly, glancing toward the yacht and calling out. Jiang Chun, where are you? Save me. Her trembling, terrified act was utterly convincing, befitting her background as an actress. Lei Hu's crew halted in their tracks, scanning the surrounding trees warily. We need to be careful. Hu Gu, Akun tensed. The man who killed Fengzi is hiding nearby, and there are more hidden assailants waiting. Lei Hu's gaze turned cold. Move forward. Grab one woman to question. They marched closer, stopping before the shaking group. Even disheveled, the women's striking features made the men swallow hard. Lei Hu suppressed his eagerness and fixed them with a ferocious grin. I will ask you a few questions, and you will answer honestly. Otherwise, you will suffer. He relished the sight of their pale, terrified faces. Zhang Ming trembled all over, her voice quivering. Spare us, sir. We will tell you everything we know. Good. Lei Hu stepped forward, tilting her chin upward, his tone sharp and threatening. How many men live on this island? Recalling Yi Qingxue's instructions, Zhang Ming fought through her fear to answer. There are 3 men here, brothers Jiang Yu and Jiang Chun, and another man named Lu Jian. Brothers? Lei Hu's eyes narrowed. The 2 different men he had seen earlier shared similar builds, and this explanation fit perfectly. Where are they? I don't know, Zhang Ming replied, feigning distress. Jiang Chun promised to protect me, but he ran off and left me behind. Lei Hu frowned and turned to the rest of the women, finally settling on Zhao Mingqi, who shook harder than anyone else. He walked slowly toward her and lifted his fire axe. Don't hurt me. I'll do anything you ask. Zhao Mingqi dropped to her knees and begged. Lei Hu looked her over from head to toe, noticing her clean new clothes and fine figure, resolving to question her thoroughly once he finished his interrogation. But then he turned and asked, Is what she said true? As he spoke, he pointed at Zhang Ming. When Lei Hu turned his gaze to her, all the women's hearts sank. They knew she had hated Jiang Yu before and feared she might betray him. But Zhao Mingqi's voice trembled as she spoke. Everything Zhang Ming said is true. That Jiang Yu is a terrible man. He held food over my head to pressure me. Brother, please help me get rid of him. Her rage at Jiang Yu felt genuine as she spoke. Hee, don't worry, beautiful. I'll get revenge for you. Lei Hu grinned. He then glanced at Jiang Yu's house and asked, What's this building all about? Yi Qingxue stepped forward to answer. We don't know. It was already here when we arrived. 3 men live inside now, and they've stockpiled tons of supplies, lots of fish, plus rice, instant noodles, and even steak traded for the fish. Her throat bobbed at the mention of steak, and the other women reacted the same way. Though their hunger was feigned for the trap, their craving for food was real. What? Those lowlives have that much food? Akun lost his composure. He was far from alone. Lei Hu and his gang were equally stunned by Yi Qingxue's words. For a moment, The allure of supplies outweighed their interest in the women entirely. Still, Lei Hu eyed the tightly shut house with wariness. He swept his gaze across the women and asked, "Is anyone inside the building?" Yi Qingxue shook her head. "No one. When they saw your group approaching, they locked the door and split up to hide elsewhere. The house is empty right now. You're certain there's food inside?" Lei Hu's tone turned cold. Zhao Mingqi's voice shook. "Sir, you can check for yourselves if you don't believe me. I've gone inside a few times. There really is a huge stock of food." A look of distress crossed her face as she added, "Those men used rations to bully all of us. Me, Yi Qingxue, Zhou Jiai, none of us escaped their mistreatment." Yi Qingxue and Zhou Jiai gritted their teeth upon hearing this. Lei Hu's eyes lit up, yet he remained cautious and scanned the surrounding area. He spotted discarded instant noodle buckets, fish bones, and packages for fish hot pot and sour fish sauce scattered in the weeds. Doubt vanished completely. Damn, those guys have been living comfortably. He shot a look at his underlings. Break the door down. Two of his men, already desperate for food, grabbed large stones and charged toward the entrance. Bang, bang, bang. At first, the door did not budge an inch. Lei Hu frowned and snapped. "Are you two holding back?" The pair strained harder. Creak. The door swung open. In truth, Zhang Yu had remotely unlocked it the second he sensed them smashing against it. He trusted the system made structure to withstand damage, and knew the system would repair it if anything broke. The two men leaned forward to peer inside, their faces lighting up. Instant noodles, steak sacks, rice sacks, and pork lay spread across the table. 3 large basins held live fish, their heads and tails breaking the water's surface as they splashed about. 2 full water storage tanks lined the back wall, alongside fishing nets and rods leaning against the wall. They stared, dumbfounded. "Boss Hu, there's mountains of food and fresh water in here. We hit the jackpot." Lei Hu and the rest crowded behind them to see the scene. "Haha, this is perfect, Boss Hu. Fishing gear and endless supplies. Those guys got unbelievably lucky, but all of this belongs to us now." Akun cheered, glancing between the house, the provisions, and the women behind him, thinking the post-apocalyptic island could not be better. "You two, head in first and search for hidden people," Lei Hu ordered, still alert. A fully furnished house with fishing equipment on an uninhabited island struck him as suspicious. Even with the women's claims that it was empty, he refused to take chances. The 2 men crept carefully inside, checking every corner before calling out. "Boss Hu, the place is totally empty. We've struck gold. There's a water purifier and a refrigerator here. We could survive for weeks off this haul." They fixated on the instant noodles, mouths watering. "Boss Hu, can we eat something first? We haven't had a proper meal in days, and last night's rations were terrible." Satisfied no one hid inside, Lei Hu stayed outside and turned to Yi Qingxue and the other women. "Eat our fill first to regain our strength. Then we'll hunt down those cowards hiding out of sight." The sight of so much food made his stomach growl loudly. He glanced at the women with greedy eyes. "Once we're full, we can unwind before dealing with them." Akun and the other men snickered. "Boss Hu, why not bring a few of them inside to eat with us?" One underling stepped toward Zhang Ming. "I prefer more mature women. This one's mine." Akun and another man glanced at Zhang Ming, briefly disappointed. But there were plenty of other attractive women to choose from, so they did not argue. They figured they could pick others for themselves later. Lei Hu made no move to stop him. His gaze locked on Qin Fei and Watanabe Kana, his desire plain to see. "I've never met foreign women before. I'll try these 2 first." The 2 women paled with fear under his stare. The underling reached Zhang Ming, and she stumbled backward, her body trembling. Chen Kuan smiled falsely. "Don't be afraid, beautiful. I'll treat you far better than that man you've been with." Just then, Yi Qingxue stepped between them, her voice shaking. "Leave her alone. I'll go with you instead." Her hand tightened around a taser hidden in her palm, slick with sweat. Chen Kuan paused, then smirked. "Oh, volunteering yourself? Fine by me." Though she lacked Zhang Ming's mature charm, her cold, striking looks stirred his urge to overpower her, and he turned to walk toward her. Akun and another underling had already made their picks. Akun set his sights on Zhou Jiai, while the other man chose Xianjing. "You two, come here," Lei Hu said to Qin Fei and Watanabe Kana in a flat tone. "Sit and eat with me. Obey, and I won't hurt anyone." The pair trembled, unable to defy him, and shuffled forward reluctantly. 2 more men who had stayed inside the house saw the commotion outside and moved to come out to select women for themselves. "Save some for us, guys." At that exact moment, Chen Kuan reached Yi Qingxue and stretched an arm out to grab her waist with a lewd grin. But in the next instant, the 2 men stepping out of the house screamed in agony. Lei Hu spun around to see their charred, Lifeless bodies crumpled in the doorway. Ambush. Lei Hu's face twisted with alarm as he scanned every shadow, certain they had been struck by an unseen attacker. Before he could react, Yi Qingxue whipped out her taser and pressed it hard against Cheng Kuen's lower back. Crackle. Blue electric sparks flashed. Cheng Kuen shrieked, convulsing violently before collapsing onto his back. You witch, you tricked us. Lei Hu seethed with rage at the sight. Grab her. I'll make her suffer endlessly. Akun's partner lunged forward to seize Yi Qingxue, only for Zhou Jia to blast a can of pepper spray straight into his eyes. She squeezed the trigger blindly in terror, yet every stream hit its mark. Ack! My eyes! He clamped his hands over his face, screaming, and Yi Qingxue seized the chance to taste him unconscious. Only Lei Hu and Akun remained standing. Akun gritted his teeth and raised an iron rod, charging at Zhou Jia. Die, you witch! Watch out! Yi Qingxue shouted. A sharp whoosh cut through the air. A dark projectile hurtled forward and buried itself deep in Akun's chest. He stared down at the fishing harpoon, piercing his torso, eyes wide with disbelief. I don't want to die, he went limp, falling with a look of bitter regret. Lei Hu's sharp gaze snapped toward the bushes as a man stepped out and walked over to the women's side. At the sight of him, all the women's tension drained away, their legs buckling beneath them as they sank to the ground. They had been terrified beyond words just moments before. Jiang Yu stared coldly at Lei Hu, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. Only you're left now. Lei Hu narrowed his eyes at Jiang Yu, his heart sinking to his stomach. Every single one of his men lay dead around him, leaving him completely alone. He had believed he could hold his own in a fight, but facing 3 opponents single-handedly was impossible. He glanced back at the house, then at the bodies strewn across the ground. A desperate resolve hardened his features. Run! Lei Hu spun on his heel and sprinted into the building, hauling the 2 charred corpses blocking the doorway and tossing them outside to create a barrier. He leaned against the doorframe, gasping for breath, a small flicker of relief settling over him. Jiang Yu did not chase him. He knelt beside the unconscious Cheng Kuen and the other tossed underling, pulled free his harpoon, and drove it through each man's chest in quick, precise strikes. Blood pooled across the dirt, and both men fell still for good. The women watched Jiang Yu's ruthless efficiency with complicated expressions. Fear lingered, but more than that, they felt useless. They had been paralyzed by terror moments earlier, and without Jiang Yu intervening, they would have faced unspeakable harm. The thought sent a chill through every one of them. Jiang Yu stowed his harpoon and glanced over the group, his gaze lingering briefly on Yi Qingxue. Her face was ashen, and her hand still shook around the taser. You all held your ground well enough. You're not completely helpless, he offered a rare compliment. The women felt a mix of shame and faint irritation. He certainly had no talent for kind words, but there was no time to dwell on it. Every pair of eyes shifted back to Lei Hu standing in the doorway. Lei Hu caught their stares and frowned in confusion. There was a strange emotion in their gazes, almost pity. He shook his head, dismissing the thought as a trick of his eyes. He drew a deep breath and glared at the group. Fine. You've outwitted me. His voice was tight with malice. I've spent my life preying on others, only to get outplayed by you lot. I'll admit defeat to that much. A wild grin spread across his face as his tone shifted. But this house is mine now. Jiang Yu raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. Silence only emboldened Lei Hu. He pointed toward the distant yacht and sneered. You think you can escape on that boat? The fuel tank's nearly empty, barely enough for a few dozen kilometers. Besides, there's no way 20 of you could fit aboard. He fixed them with a cold stare. Without this house, all the food, fresh water, and fishing gear inside, how long will you survive? Of course, you could beg me nicely. If I'm feeling generous, I might spare you a handful of supplies. He relished the image of Jiang Yu and the women kneeling before him, desperate for aid. Since Jiang Yu had wiped out his crew, he intended to strip them of any hope. Jiang Yu looked at him as if watching a fool ramble. He waited for him to finish his rant before speaking flatly. Finished delivering your last words? Lei Hu's grin froze. You dare act smug when I've locked myself inside your house. He ground his teeth, scanning the surrounding trees. You claimed you had partners. Bring them out. I'd love to see what those other 2 cowards look like. Jiang Yu laughed and shook his head. Partners? His tone stayed calm. I'm the only man on this island. There are no others. You've been misled. Lei Hu barked out a loud, mocking laugh. Lies. I saw 2 different men earlier, one in a black t-shirt, another in swim trunks. Those were 2 separate people. That was just me, changing clothes. Jiang Yu replied plainly. Lei Hu's laughter cut off abruptly. He stared at Jiang Yu, then scanned the women's faces, searching for a hint of deceit. Yet Yi Qingxue, Zhou Jia, Zhang Ming and the rest all wore identical, knowing, odd expressions. Lei Hu's face darkened inch by inch as the truth dawned on him. He had been manipulated from the very start. The hooded figure who jumped off the boat and the man in swim trunks who killed his 2 boat guards were the same person. The names Jiang Chun and Lu Jian the women had mentioned were entirely fabricated. You fine. I've been played for a fool this entire time. Lei Hu snarled, consumed by rage. Even knowing he only faced Jiang Yu alone, he dared not rush forward. The women had proven they were dangerous too. Jiang Yu grew tired of the conversation. It's time to end this. Lei Hu's eyes widened in panic. He stumbled backward into the house, grabbing the door frame and brandishing a lighter in one hand. He waved it back and forth with a vicious snarl. Step foot inside, and I'll burn this entire building to the ground. Thank you for all these supplies. I'll take them for myself. Don't try to break in, or I'll turn every last thing here to ash. He estimated the food stock would sustain him for 10 days, and holding the house gave him a fighting chance. This thought bolstered his courage, and he glared hatefully at the women. And you treacherous lot, once I get the chance, I'll make you pay. I'll make you pay for every lie you told me. He hated the women far more than Jiang Yu. Their feigned vulnerability and false stories had led him into ruin. He reached to slam the door shut. Crackle! A streak of blue electricity struck him out of nowhere. Lei Hu's hand went limp, and the lighter clattered to the ground. He stared ahead in stunned disbelief. He had seen the lightning materialize from thin air to hit him. He suddenly remembered his 2 underlings had died from identical electric shocks. Lei Hu forced his head up to look at Jiang Yu, who stood unruffled. A terrifying thought struck him, a detail he had overlooked until that moment. This strange, uninhabited island house. All these women. You're that famous user online, Single Man 250? Jiang Yu met his gaze, a faint smirk rising on his face. Correct. Unfortunately, there's no reward for guessing right. The second the words left his mouth, a far stronger surge of electricity blasted toward Lei Hu. His body convulsed violently, and the sharp stench of burning flesh filled the air. Seconds later, his charred body crumpled to the ground with a heavy thud. All the women exhaled in collective relief, turning to Jiang Yu with overwhelming gratitude. Without him in this fortified house, they could not imagine what would have become of them that day. Jiang Yu swept his gaze over the group and spoke simply. Clean this place up. None of the women objected. Jiang Yu's actions that day had earned their deep respect. They had witnessed Lei Hu's gang's cruelty firsthand, treated as disposable playthings with no regard for their safety. Without Jiang Yu's carefully laid trap eliminating the entire crew, their fate would have been unspeakably grim. Fueled by this knowledge, they pushed past their fear and dragged the 5 bodies together beside the house. The 5 corpses lay lined up on the open ground, the air thick with the metallic tang of blood and the acrid smell of burnt flesh. Zhang Ming ran to the side to retch after moving the last body, and the other women fared no better. Their faces pale, hands trembling uncontrollably. Jiang Yu, what should we do with these bodies? Yi Qingxue drew a deep breath, steadying her shaking voice. Jiang Yu glanced at the pile of corpses. Burn them. Leaving them on the island will spoil the environment. The women raised no objections to the plan. Under Yi Qingxue's direction, the women set off to gather firewood. There were not many trees on the island, yet dry shrubs and hay littered every corner. Before long, they had stacked a tall pile of fuel. Taking the lead, Yi Qingxue guided the other women to carry the corpses over and lay them atop the wood stack. Afterwards, Yi Qingxue pulled out the lighter she had taken from Lei Hu and lit the dry grass. Flames shot upward and spread rapidly, thick smoke billowing into the sky. In the old world, none of these women would have dared to do something like this. But tempered by the end times, and knowing all the men they burned were ruthless villains, they only felt a heavy weight lift from their chests as fire swallowed the bodies. Jiang Yu stood apart, his gaze fixed on the sea. The yacht still floated out there, yet he spotted figures aboard it. His eyes narrowed instantly. His enhanced vision let him make out the people on deck even at this distance. Megan, Hilton, Dolores, Kanita Sakura, and several other women who had fled earlier. They stood along the railing, staring toward the house. A thought crossed Jiang Yu's mind. Were these women planning to take the yacht and sail away? He did not particularly care. Lei Hu had told him the vessel held barely enough fuel to travel a few dozen kilometers at most. If they set out, they would be stranded and starve out on the open ocean, a fitting end for them. Still, Jiang Yu held his ground, watching coldly to see what choice they would make. On the yacht's deck, Megan and the others watched the smoke rising from the island, their faces etched with confusion and alarm. Is the house on fire? Hilton pointed toward the building, uncertain. It's not the building itself. It looks like someone is burning something large. What on earth has been happening over there this whole time? All the women were filled with doubts. They had fled south to the beach earlier, overcome with terror. When hours passed with no sign of the bandits chasing them, they had calmed down slightly. Hilton knew how to swim. She had mustered the courage to swim out to the western reefs, where she had watched Jiang Yu kill the 2 men guarding the yacht single-handedly. Too afraid to reveal herself, she had swum straight back to shore. Jiang Yu, he took down 2 bandits all by himself. Megan found it hard to believe after hearing Hilton's account. Hilton nodded, her face pale with fright. I saw it with my own eyes. He defeated them effortlessly, in just a few quick moves. What about the rest? There were 5 more bandits. Did they all head for the house? Dolores asked. Hilton shook her head. I didn't dare get close enough to see where they went. The women exchanged uneasy glances. Maybe we should check the yacht, Hilton suggested. If it still runs, we could leave this island for good. Megan's eyes lit up, and she agreed at once. The others hesitated briefly, then nodded their assent. They crept along the shore until they reached the yacht's mooring spot, and froze in horror at the sight of Chun Gang and Yin Liang's bodies. Climbing aboard, they screamed when they saw the gruesome remains of 4 women strewn inside the cabin. The sight was too much to bear, and they doubled over, retching. It took them a long while to steady their nerves. Fighting back nausea and dread, they hauled the bodies back onto the beach. Dolores and Hilton both knew how to operate the yacht, so they thoroughly inspected the vessel. The fuel tank is nearly empty. Dolores stared at the gauge, her shoulders slumping in despair. We can only travel 30 to 40 kilometers max. There's no food or fresh water on board either. If we sail out, we'll drift helplessly at sea and die once the fuel runs out. Silence fell over the group. Should we head back then? Hilton whispered. Megan gritted her teeth and glanced at the smoke drifting above the house. If Jiang Yu really eliminated all those bandits, staying with him might not be such a terrible option. She paused, her voice dropping to a murmur. It's far better than suffering at the hands of those cruel men, at the very least. None of the other women spoke, yet their expressions mirrored her own thoughts. They had always been free-spirited women, and had once looked down on Jiang Yu. But if he had emerged victorious, he had earned their reluctant respect. Staying by his side was their best shot at survival. This was only a decision forced by desperation, though. They would never choose to rely on him if any other path to safety existed. Let's sneak back and see what's going on. Megan hopped down from the yacht first, the others trailing behind her as they walked toward the house. On the eastern reefs, the 6 women who had run off separately, Wang Charan, Li Jiyun, Audrey, Mavika, Kamiva, and Deng Yuzhen, had gathered together. They were all watching the distant smoke. Is the house burning? Audrey pointed toward the sky, anxiety clear on her face. The rest paled at the question. Who do you think won in the end? Li Jiyun asked quietly. No one answered her. Wang Charan leaned against a large rock, biting her lip as she lost herself in thought. After a long silence, Deng Yuzhen spoke up. We should wait a little longer. Her eyes flickered with resolve as she continued. If Jiang Yu really defeated all the bandits, I plan to go find him. The other women sank into deep thought at her words. Audrey lowered her head. Thinking of the few hamburgers Jack had sacrificed his life to get for her, they would not last much longer. She had already intended to seek out Jiang Yu before. She only delayed the plan to hold on to the food Jack had left her. If Jiang Yu had won, she would resolve to join him without hesitation. Mavika and Kamiva said nothing, lost in their own contemplation. Li Jiyun clenched her jaw and mumbled, I want to go too. Deng Yuzhen nodded once, falling silent after that. In the open space before the house, the fire still blazed. All 5 bandit corpses were fully consumed by flames, and a sharp burnt stench hung thick in the air. Su Lishuan, who had pretended to flee earlier, had returned. She busied herself with cleanup work. Yi Qingxue walked over to Jiang Yu and followed his line of sight out to sea. Megan and the others are on that yacht? Jiang Yu replied flatly. They were probably planning to sail away just now. His tone remained calm. If they have any sense, they'll come back. Yi Qingxue stared toward the yacht, certain of her prediction. Sure enough, it was not long before Megan, Hilton, Dolores, and the others crept into view. When they spotted Jiang Yu and the rest of the women standing by the house, they stepped forward into plain sight. Dirt coated their hair and clothes, and they avoided meeting Jiang Yu's eyes, too ashamed to look straight at him. Jiang Yu swept a cold glance over them, saying nothing. Not only him, but many of the women who had stayed behind regarded the newcomers with cold disapproval. After all, they had abandoned the group without a second thought when danger arrived. No one could blame the others for holding resentment. Megan and her companions shifted awkwardly, overcome with guilt. They knew full well the rest of the women resented their earlier flight. Still, they were quick to swallow their pride and apologize outright. "We're so sorry. We ran away out of pure terror back then. Truly, we're sorry." Hilton bowed her head, her tone sincere. Megan and the others echoed her apology. "We made a terrible mistake leaving everyone to face the danger alone." The constant horrors broadcast over the public channel left us paralyzed with fear. "Please give us a second chance." The women who had stayed behind softened, no longer willing to scold them. Anyone would be terrified facing a gang of violent criminals. Fear was only human nature. What was more, their sudden departure had inadvertently kept Lei Hu and his men from immediately suspecting Jiang Yu's true identity. If all 20-some women had stayed grouped together, the bandits would have been far more likely to piece together the truth. Seeing the others withhold blame, Megan's group turned their attention back to Jiang Yu. He only glanced at them once, showing no intention of acknowledging their presence. He had disliked their arrogant attitudes from the start, and their cowardly escape had worsened his opinion. Though their fear was understandable, he preferred to keep his distance from women who abandoned their allies in crisis. Panic flickered across their faces at his icy silence. Hilton glanced at the burning pile and suddenly brightened with an idea. "There are several more bodies left aboard the yacht. We'll take charge of cleaning them up and tidying the whole vessel." Megan and the rest perked up at her words. The sight of corpses still terrified them, yet they forced themselves to volunteer. They were desperate to repair their damaged standing in the group. With that, they turned and hurried off, afraid Jiang Yu would reject their offer before they finished speaking. Yi Qingxue watched their retreating figures and shook her head. They were clearly frightened of being cast aside. Another truth was plain to see. After everything that had unfolded today, Jiang Yu's standing in all their eyes had risen dramatically. Back on the eastern reefs, Deng Yuzhen's group waited nervously for ages with no sign of the bandits returning. Doubt gnawed at their minds. Why hasn't anything happened yet? Could Jiang Yu have won? Li Jiyun whispered. I doubt it. There were so many of those men. Audrey frowned, though uncertainty lingered in her voice. But if he lost, the bandits would have come hunting for us ages ago, Deng Yuzhen pointed out after a quiet pause. Maybe we should head back and check? Wang Churen bit her lip and voiced the thought weighing on everyone's minds. Sitting here waiting accomplishes nothing. Even if Jiang Yu did win, our earlier desertion means he won't treat us kindly. We'd be better off going back and sincerely apologizing. The rest fell into thought over her words. Churen is right, Deng Yuzhen nodded. Let's go back to the house. Whatever the outcome, waiting here endlessly serves no purpose. The 6 women reached an agreement and carefully made their way toward the house. They circled around the reefs and climbed the hillside. There they caught sight of Yi Qingxue and the others clearing the fire pit in the yard. Jiang Yu stood off to the side, completely unharmed without a single scratch on his body. There was no trace left of the bandits anywhere. Deng Yuzhen froze mid-step, her mind reeling from shock. He had actually won. A single man had defeated 8 ruthless, hardened criminals. She drew a deep breath and led the rest forward to join the group. We've come back. Deng Yuzhen stopped in front of Yi Qingxue, her voice trembling with unease. Yi Qingxue looked at her, holding no anger, and simply let out a quiet "NM." Wang Churen stole a glance at Jiang Yu. He stood motionless, his face blank, impossible to read. The 6 women lined up quietly to one side, not daring to utter another word. Jiang Yu glanced over the returning women but paid them no heed. He turned and walked into the house. He emerged a moment later carrying a sack of bread. Yi Qingxue, he called out. Yi Qingxue hurried over to him. Jiang Yu handed her the sack. Distribute this to the women who stayed to help today. They performed admirably. It was rare for Jiang Yu to offer praise, yet well-deserved. Without the women holding Lei Hu and his men distracted, defeating the gang so cleanly would have been impossible. Every woman present reacted differently to his words. Zhang Ming and the others who had stood their ground lit up with delight. Thank you, Jiang Yu. They each took a small loaf from Yi Qingxue. Though there was only one tiny piece per person, it would quiet their empty stomachs. Meanwhile, Deng Yuzhen and her group watched them holding food with undisguised envy. Their stomachs rumbled loudly in protest, yet none dared step forward to beg for a share. Shame weighed heavy on all of them. Then Jiang Yu spoke again. He made every hungry woman swallow hard with longing. He looked toward Yi Qingxue, Zhou Jiai, and Zhao Mingqi, his tone softer than usual. The 3 of you did excellent work. Come to my cottage tonight. I'll prepare hot pot fish and stir-fried potatoes with sliced pork as a reward. Yi Qingxue's eyes sparkled, and she nodded happily. Zhou Jiai glanced at him before lowering her head, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Zhao Mingqi's joy was impossible to hide. To her, this gesture meant Jiang Yu fully trusted her. Her consistent efforts these past 2 days had not been wasted. When Lei Hu's gang had threatened them, she had briefly considered betraying Jiang Yu to save herself. But after careful thought, she had chosen to place her faith in him, and her gamble had paid off. Zhang Ming and the other women stared at their plain bread, suddenly finding it tasteless after hearing of the hearty feast waiting for the 3 favored women. They could only watch enviously. They had not aligned themselves with Jiang Yu early enough to earn such a reward. All the women's gazes fixed on Jiang Yu, filled with eager longing. Many silently wondered how they might earn the chance to share a warm meal inside his cottage later. Darkness fell over the island. Aside from Yi Qingxue, Zhou Jiai, and Zhao Mengqi, all the other women returned to their makeshift shelter beneath the stone overhang. Jiang Yu headed back to his cottage to shower and change into clean clothes, feeling refreshed. He granted Yi Qingxue, Zhou Jiai, and Zhao Mengqi permission to wash up inside as well, though each was limited to 3 minutes in the bathroom. 3 minutes would have seemed absurdly short in the old world, yet they felt incredibly fortunate for the chance. The other women outside watched on, burning with envy. I wish I could take a proper shower too, Zhang Ming muttered, staring toward Zhao Mengqi and Yi Qingxue. Aren't we all? Su Lishuan's eyes drifted to the small cottage, filled with quiet yearning. Inside the cottage, Zhou Jiai finished bathing last. She stepped out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, her hair damp, a soft flush on her cheeks from the warm water. Jiang Yu leaned against the bed frame with his eyes closed, resting. At that moment, a private message notification pinged from Zhao Wei, and a slow smile tugged at Jiang Yu's mouth. Time to give my so-called good brother the surprise he deserves. Jiang Yu activated the private chat channel with a thought. He then crooked a finger to beckon Zhou Jiai closer. Zhou Jiai hesitated for a split second, guessing the message must be from Zhao Wei, and obediently walked to his side. Mixed emotions stirred within her, satisfaction alongside quiet curiosity. She already knew what Jiang Yu planned to do, and she waited to hear Zhao Wei's response. Zhao Wei, your betrayal will come back to haunt you, she thought to herself. The moment she stepped near, Zhao Wei's voice echoed through the channel. His voice was loud and urgent. Brother, thank goodness you answered. How's Jiai? Have you explained everything to her yet? His anxiety was plain in every word. Zhou Jiai's face twisted with disdain upon hearing him speak. What a hypocritical man. Before she could say a word, Jiang Yu pulled her gently to stand beside him. A soft gasp escaped Zhou Jiai, which she quickly stifled upon remembering Zhao Wei could hear sounds through the channel. On the other end, Zhao Wei caught it. He caught the faint noise and questioned, Jiang Yu, what was that sound? Is there a woman with you? Jiang Yu remained calm and unflustered as he replied, It's nothing. All the women are staying outside. One must have run into trouble. Zhao Wei remained suspicious, certain the voice had sounded familiar, yet a more pressing worry pushed the doubt from his mind. Brother, why haven't you gotten through to Jiai? She's ignored all my messages, and I've heard nothing from you. I've heard nothing for 2 whole days. I'm going out of my mind with worry over here. Jiang Yu spoke slowly and evenly, feigning lingering fright. I've barely had a minute to spare these past few days. Bandits landed on the island today. They were cold-blooded murderers, utterly terrifying. He altered his tone to sound shaken, selling the act fully. Zhao Wei gasped in shock. Bandits on the island? Is Jiai all right? We took enormous risks fighting them off and eliminated every last one. It could have ended catastrophically for all of us. Relief washed over Zhao Wei, yet not out of concern for Zhou Jiai's safety. He only cared that Jiang Yu had survived, meaning his steady supply of food would not dry up. He put on a false tone of worry and asked, Were you hurt at all? Did Jiai sustain any injuries? Jiang Yu let out a cold scoff. He knew Zhao Wei all too well. Beneath his fake concern lay conflicted greed. Part of him wished Jiang Yu dead, yet he feared losing his source of sustenance if anything befell him. I'm fine. Jiai got a little hurt, and I'm tending to her wounds right now. As he spoke, Jiang Yu gently pressed his palm. He pressed his palm against Zhou Jiai's waist to check her injury. Zhou Jiai shot him a sideways glance, a faint blush spreading across her delicate face. This was supposed to be wound care. She instantly grabbed his hand away. Zhao Wei's heart skipped a beat. Tending wounds? How exactly? You two being alone together, could anything go wrong? But he didn't dare dwell on the thought, and quickly voiced his gratitude. That's a relief, a real relief. Brother, thank you. Thank you so much for looking after Jiai. I'll definitely repay you well once we get through all this. Jiang Yu had no interest in responding to that line. Zhao Wei spoke up again, his tone tinged with ingratiation. Brother, do you have any extra food on hand? We barely made it out of the desert and found a small settlement with a tiny bit of supplies, but it's nowhere near enough to feed everyone. I'm starving half to death. Could you spare some? Jiang Yu raised an eyebrow. I went out to hunt this evening and actually caught a fish, around 4 or 5 pounds. I can split half of it with you. Zhao Wei's face lit up with joy the second he heard that, his voice rising sharply. Really? Brother, you're the best friend I could ask for. If I make it through this, I'll listen to whatever you say once we cross paths again. Jiang Yu didn't answer straight away. He fell silent for several seconds. Then his tone turned cold. Is that so, Zhao Wei? I treated you like a brother, yet you stabbed me in the back behind my back. Don't you think you owe me an explanation for that? On the other end of the channel, Zhao Wei went quiet. His mind raced. Could this bastard have heard something? No way, he must be bluffing me. What? What are you talking about? When would I ever betray you like that? He let out a forced laugh, his voice carrying a note of reproach. Brother, are you joking? We've been close friends for years. How could I ever do something like that to you? These are desperate times. Cut the prank. Jiang Yu let out a cold scoff, his tone still icy. A prank? Do you want me to walk you through every detail to jog your memory? Was it you who turned Lu Yuru against me and broke us up, and who nearly got me fired back at the company? Zhao Wei's heart sank completely. He never imagined Jiang Yu had found out about everything. Worse still, a far more terrifying thought crossed his mind. If Jiang Yu knew he was behind all of it, he would never treat Zhou Jia kindly. He might take it out on her. Brother, where did you hear such slander? Zhao Wei put on an air of righteous indignation. None of that has anything to do with me. After all these years of friendship, it hurts to think you'd suspect me like this. Jiang Yu laughed. The sound sent a chill down Zhao Wei's spine. Why are you so flustered? Jiang Yu's tone shifted abruptly, and he let out a hearty laugh. I was just messing with you. No need to take it so seriously. Zhao Wei froze for a second before exhaling a long breath, letting out a half-amused, half-nervous laugh. You scared me half to death. You really picked the worst moments to crack jokes. Jiang Yu's smile widened. Zhou Jia listened to their exchange, watching Zhao Wei get manipulated and toyed with effortlessly, and a surge of satisfaction washed over her. This man deserved every bit of this. Just then, Jiang Yu changed the subject. By the way, you've been wondering if Jia's forgiven you, right? I've spent ages talking her through things these past 2 days, put a lot of effort into it. He dragged out the last few words for emphasis. Hearing this made Zhou Jia's cheeks flush even deeper. Zhao Wei perked up immediately. Brother, I appreciate you going out of your way. What did Jia say? Jia was furious at first, even inconsolable for a while. But she's calmed down. And I've got a little surprise for you right now. Jiang Yu tilted his lips up into a grin and glanced down at Zhou Jia nestled in his arms. What surprise? Does that mean Jia's forgiven me? Excitement laced Zhao Wei's voice. Jiang Yu didn't reply right away. He turned to Zhou Jia instead. Darling, say hello to our old friend for me. Zhou Jia rolled her eyes at him, yet a faint smile tugged at her lips. She took a deep breath and spoke steadily. Zhao Wei, there's something I need to tell you. I've chosen to stay with Jiang Yu now. A dead silence fell over the other end of the line. Zhao Wei stayed quiet for a full 5 seconds before he finally spoke, his voice trembling. Jia, what did you just say? Are you still mad at me, just saying this to mess with me? He forced another hollow laugh, as if trying to convince himself. Jia, I know I messed up, I truly do. I never should have seen other women or said those terrible things. Can you find it in your heart to forgive me? Zhou Jia said nothing, overcome with disgust at how fake Zhao Wei sounded. Zhao Wei turned back to Jiang Yu, clinging to hope. Brother, are you two teaming up to tease me? Just punishing me for my mistakes? This joke's gone a little too far. Jiang Yu didn't respond, only smirked faintly. Zhao Wei's heart sank further and further. He launched into apologies. Jia, listen to me, I'm truly sorry. I haven't forgotten all the kindness you showed me over these 3 years. I was blind and foolish to take you for granted. Are you finished? Zhou Jia cut him off, her voice cold as ice. Zhao Wei fell silent. At that moment, Jiang Yu reached out to gently press a hand to Zhou Jia's injured waist to check her wound again. Zhou Jia jolted slightly at the touch and let out a soft, startled gasp. Don't. The sound carried a hint of embarrassment and fluster. Even dim-witted Zhao Wei could hear the closeness implied in that soft cry. His face burned bright red, his eyes blazing with rage as he ground his teeth together loudly. No man could stand hearing something like this. His former fiancée in another man's arms, and that man was someone he'd once looked down on. Zhao Wei's breathing grew heavy and ragged, like a volcano ready to erupt at any second. Jiang Yu poured fuel on the fire, speaking in a calm, casual tone. It's all true, Zhao Wei. Jia's decided to stand by me now. He paused, then let out a quiet chuckle. Though, in a way, I should thank you. If you hadn't acted the way you did, I never would have seen Lu Yuru's true colors, nor met someone as wonderful as Jia. He looked down at Zhou Jia in his arms, his tone softening. She's beautiful and kind-hearted. She's exactly the person I want by my side. Zhou Jia's cheeks flushed bright red at his words. She shot him a glance, but made no move to pull away. Zhao Wei's breathing grew more labored by the second. He opened his mouth to shout curses, but forced every harsh word back down his throat. Several men stood beside him at that moment, led by a stern-faced man known as Dao Gu. Dao Gu stared fiercely at him. He shot him a sharp look, a clear unspoken message. Focus on getting food, stop rambling. Zhao Wei's heart turned cold with fear. He was dependent on Dao Ji's group for survival. If he angered Jiang Yu, food would cut off. He drew a deep breath, forcing the fury from his face bit by bit. When he spoke again, his voice was calm, even laced with a false sense of acceptance. I see. He sighed heavily. Brother, I'm relieved knowing Jia's got you to look after her. I wronged her deeply, and I don't deserve her forgiveness. This is the end of the world. We might never cross paths again. It's fate, and I wish you both well. Zhou Jia's eyes widened in shock, unable to believe Zhao Wei could utter such hollow words. Jiang Yu remained unruffled, a teasing smirk playing on his lips. Zhao Wei's tone shifted to feigned remorse. Brother, I was in the wrong about what happened before, but I acted out of concern for you with Lu Yuru. That woman cared only about luxury, and she would have left you for that young Master Zhang eventually. I thought it would be less painful for you to part sooner rather than later. As for the trouble at your old job, I had nothing to do with that. Young Master Zhang was behind it all, not me. He shifted all blame away from himself, then added, now that Jia is with you, it can count as repayment for everything I did wrong. Can we call it even between us? Zhou Jia could hold back no longer. Zhao Wei, you're shameless. Her voice shook with anger. How can you say something like that? Do you have any decency left? I'm not some object to be traded, and you have no right to decide who I stay with. Zhao Wei rushed to apologize. You can shout and hate me all you want, Jia, but I mean every word. Jiang Yu is a far better match for you, and I truly hope you two find happiness. His voice sounded sincere. It only made Zhou Jia's stomach churn. She trembled with rage. Jiang Yu rubbed gentle circles on her back to calm her down. He knew full well Zhao Wei was only putting on an act. He needed food too badly. This man he'd once called brother could swallow his pride and watch his former fiancée choose another man, all just to stay alive. Truly, there was no limit to how low a person could sink. Beneath his pleasantries, he seethed. Zhao Wei seethed with silent hatred. Jiang Yu, Zhou Jia, you two will pay for this. Sooner or later, I'll make you suffer for what you've done. Out loud, however, he kept up his ingratiating tone. Brother, about the food. I heard you. Jiang Yu replied flatly. Zhou Jia could no longer bear listening to Zhao Wei's voice. She leaned against Jiang Yu's chest and murmured softly. Let's turn in for the night. Don't waste another thought on him. Zhao Wei heard every word clearly through the private channel, his face flushing hot with humiliation. Jiang Yu patted her shoulder gently to soothe her. Brother, I didn't expect you to be so magnanimous. Since you've said as much, we'll consider it. We'll consider our past conflicts settled. I'll take good care of Jai for you. As for food, I'll hunt and gather as much as I can spare. Zhao Wei hurried to plead. Brother, my survival depends entirely on you. Don't go back on your word. Desperation thickened his voice. Still uneasy, a sudden idea popped into his head. Brother, I might be able to get in touch with Lu Yuru. Excitement colored his tone. If you still hold resentment toward her, I can help you track her down to settle scores. Could you spare more food for me in return? Jiang Yu narrowed his eyes slightly. Lu Yuru, the ex-girlfriend who'd broken up with him. He'd long wished for a chance to confront her properly. If Zhao Wei could locate her, he might as well play along with this scheme. He smiled faintly. That works for me. If you can bring her, I'll give extra. Zhao Wei's face lit up with elation. Rest assured, brother. I'll reach out to her right away and track her down no matter what. He cut the private channel short immediately, terrified Jiang Yu might change his mind. Silence fell over the small room. Jiang Yu looked down at Zhou Jia nestled against him. Her cheeks still held a faint blush, her eyes swirling with lingering anger and tangled, unnameable emotion. Jiang Yu reached out to tilt her chin upward with one finger. I meant every word I said earlier. Zhou Jia blinked in confusion. Which words? That you're beautiful and endlessly gentle. Zhou Jia's face burned brighter. Jiang Yu smiled, his gaze meaningful. It's time we rest. He leaned down and pressed his lips to hers. A desolate settlement surrounded by barren deserts stretched out in the distance. Several bodies lay scattered across the ground. Fresh blood still stained the earth, and a faint metallic tang of blood hung thick in the air. Zhao Wei sat with a dozen other ragged, sand-caked men, all clearly exhausted from trekking through the desert. The second he ended the private call, every trace of his fake smile vanished, replaced by unbridled malice and rage. He replayed the soft cry he'd heard, Zhou Jiai's quiet request to turn in together, and the smug image of Jiang Yu he'd conjured in his mind, burning with fury. Beast! He slammed his fist hard against the earthen wall, grinding his teeth viciously. Jiang Yu, Zhou Jiai, you two wretched people will get what's coming to you. He swore to himself that he would make them suffer terribly if he ever got the chance. The other men around him watched, quiet smirks playing across their faces. Dao Gu held a passably attractive woman in his lap, running a hand casually over her arm as he shot Zhao Wei a cold glance. Quit your sniveling, he said impatiently. We can sort out your personal mess later. The rest of us will back you up when the time comes. His tone sharpened with menace. For now, do exactly what Jiang Yu asked and track down his old lover. If you mess this up, you know what'll happen to you. All rage drained from Zhao Wei's face in an instant, swallowed by pure terror. He remembered the young man who'd argued with Dao Gu the day before, beaten to death, then left for the group to consume as food. A shudder ran through his frame. Dao Gu, I understand. I'll reach out to her right away, I promise. He hastily pulled up his private messaging interface and began searching for her contact. As Zhao Wei sent out messages to find Lu Yuru, his hatred only grew deeper. Dao Gu nodded in satisfaction, lit a cigarette, and dragged the woman beside him into a nearby shack. Muffled cries soon drifted out from within. Jiang Yu, Zhou Jiai, just wait. When I find you two, I'll settle every last score slowly. Beneath his seething inner vows, he wore an expression of complete subservience, like a loyal hound. Night had fully fallen on the small island. Groups of women sat scattered beneath stone outcrops, staring toward Jiang Yu's brightly lit cabin, each lost in their own private thoughts. Zhou Jiai had left ages ago and still hadn't returned. It seems she won't be coming back tonight. Chen Sisi muttered quietly, a hint of envy in her voice. Su Lishuan shot her a glance, but said nothing, her mind heavy with unspoken worries. Zhao Mengqi leaned back against a rock, a faint smile tugging at her lips as she plotted how to win more favor with Jiang Yu the next day. She'd long since accepted her fate and cared little how many other women stayed by his side. Yi Qingxue had eaten her fill that evening and sat with her eyes closed, not yet ready to sleep. Meanwhile, the women who'd hesitated and held back during the day's crisis buzzed with new plans. Megan, Hilton, Dolores, and Kaneda Sakura huddled together, speaking in hushed whispers. We ran and hid when trouble hit today, even though we helped dispose of the bodies afterward. Jiang Yu's definitely upset with us. Megan frowned, filled with regret. We need to find a chance to properly apologize, or life on this island will grow far harder for us. Hilton gritted her teeth. Maybe we can head over to his cabin together once Zhou Jiai comes out? The four women exchanged glances, all fully aware of what visiting him this late at night would entail, but they had no choice but to push past their reservations. Surviving this harsh world came first. Personal scruples were a luxury they could no longer afford. Agreed, Megan resolved firmly. We'll go once Zhou Jiai emerges. A short distance away, Deng Yuzhen, Wang Churen, Audrey, Li Jiyun, Mika, and Kamaeva gathered in another cluster. They'd hidden away on the eastern reefs for most of the day and arrived back too late to help clear the last 3 corpses. They'd only had leftover dried fish to eat, barely enough to curb their hunger, and their stomachs rumbled loudly again. I said earlier that if Jiang Yu could fend off those bandits, I'd go to him. Deng Yuzhen looked at the other women, her tone steady. What do all of you think? Wang Churen nodded. Our only hope of surviving is relying on Jiang Yu. We're trapped on this island with no way to escape. Audrey echoed her sentiment. The hamburgers Jack left me are almost gone. I have no other options left. Li Jiyun stared at the ground, conflict flickering across her face before hardening into quiet resolve. Mika hesitated, speaking softly. But the trial period ends tomorrow. Should we wait one more day? Something better might change for us then. Her words plunged the group into silence. Wang Churen shook her head gravely. I don't think so. So many people have already died just during the trial phase. Remember what the system warned us. The zombies and mutated beasts will only grow more dangerous later on. Deng Yuzhen nodded in agreement. Don't fool yourselves into thinking the island is completely safe. The system won't let us live easily for long. Her voice turned heavier with dread. Think about it. If zombies evolve once the trial ends, what about the sea creatures? Won't they mutate too? All the women paled at the thought. They all turned their gazes toward Jiang Yu's small cabin, the only place that held any hope for their survival. I'll head over first to gauge his mood, Deng Yuzhen offered. I'll see where things stand with him. Then we can all decide our next move together. The rest nodded in silent agreement. Su Luxian, Shen Sisi, Xin Fei, Watanabe Kanna, and the other women who received bread that day gathered together. They had all witnessed Jiang Yu's decisive, ruthless conduct earlier and felt his formidable strength firsthand. What's more, Jiang Yu had never resorted to extreme measures against them. Even as malicious slander flooded the public chat channel, he only used food as leverage to negotiate, which made him seem far more upright than most survivors around. Now they were discussing their plans for the uncertain future. Su Luxian glanced around and frowned suddenly. Where's Zhang Ming? Has anyone seen her? Shen Sisi blinked in surprise. She went to the restroom a little while ago. She was right here just now. But she's been gone for an awfully long time. Su Liuxuan's gaze drifted toward Jiang Yu's small wooden cabin, lost in thought. Yi Qingxue leaned against a boulder, a knowing smile tugging at her lips. She already suspected what had happened, yet she said nothing. Inside the cabin, Zhou Jia stepped out at last. Her movements were slightly stiff, her beautiful eyes filled with exhaustion. The man had kept her occupied without pause for hours. She took a deep breath and walked toward the group by the stones. The moment she left, a knock echoed from outside the door. Knock, knock, knock. Zhang Yu raised an eyebrow and stepped forward to pull the door open. Zhang Ming stood on the doorstep, clad in her thin burgundy slip dress that accentuated her curvy figure. Under the dark night sky, Jiang Yu, I can't fall asleep. I wanted to come chat with you for a while. Her soft, expressive eyes locked straight onto his. A slow smile spread across Jiang Yu's mouth. He said nothing, only stepped aside to let her enter. Zhang Ming let out a light laugh and stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind her. Inside the cabin, Jiang Yu and Zhang Ming stood facing each other. Even after being close to stunning women like Yi Qingxue, Zhou Jiai, and Zhao Mengqi, he acknowledged her charm. Her allure was entirely different from the other women's. Nearly 30 years old, she carried the mature grace of a fully ripe peach. Even covered in grime, messy hair and fish stench from days of hardship, her innate sensual charisma could not be hidden. Back in the entertainment industry, she was widely known as the goddess of sensuality. Now she stood before him, her bright eyes fixed firmly on his face with a faint, teasing smile playing on her lips. Noticing Jiang Yu's gaze lingering on her, Zhang Ming subtly straightened her posture and giggled softly. Had your fill of staring? Her voice carried a lazy, playful lilt. Jiang Yu pulled his eyes away, the corners of his mouth twitching upward. He admitted she had striking natural charm, yet he was not the type of man who lost his senses over a pretty face. Besides, days of unprotected sun and rain had left her covered in dirt and disheveled. He was not desperate for company without basic hygiene. Why have you come? He crossed his arms, his tone calm and neutral. Zhang Ming shot him a coquettish glance. You know full well why I'm here. She took a step forward, closing the distance between them. I came because I need food. These past few days I've starved nonstop. If I don't get a proper meal soon, I'll waste away completely. She paused, her gaze unwavering as she spoke. I accept your terms. I just wonder, would you want someone older like me? There was a hint of self-deprecation in her tone, yet her eyes never shied away from his. Jiang Yu silently admired her bold, captivating aura. Every glance and gesture carried a natural, enticing magnetism. Do you take me for a man without basic decency? Jiang Yu asked, looking at her with a half-smile. Zhang Ming froze for a second, then burst into soft, lilting laughter that made her shoulders shake. You really are an intriguing man. Her laughter faded, and her eyes turned earnest. No wonder calculating women like Zhao Mengqi chose to follow you willingly. And Yi Qingxue, she carries such immense pride, yet she sought you out on her own. Today she even stood against bandits to stand by your side. I truly admire that courage of hers. Jiang Yu looked at her, a rare note of approval in his voice. You held your own well against the bandits too. He had heard every detail of the women's standoff with the raiders from Yi Qingxue earlier. Zhang Ming had played a prominent role in that confrontation. To be honest, he had once underestimated her, assuming she was a pampered celebrity with no stamina for hardship. Seeing her bravery in the face of danger had greatly raised his opinion of her. That was why he did not turn her away when she came. In this post-apocalyptic world, only women capable of lending a hand were worth sheltering beside him. A thought crossed his mind, and he posed a question. I remember seeing countless news articles praising how loving you and your husband were. Before the end of the world, he had browsed entertainment gossip once. Zhang Ming and her husband, an A-list film emperor, had been hailed as the perfect couple upon their highly publicized wedding. Zhang Ming curled her lips in undisguised disdain. All that affection was nothing but a performance for the cameras. A trace of bitterness flickered across her face. We did love each other at the very start, but over time our marriage devolved into a business arrangement. He's long kept multiple lovers hidden away, and I stopped caring ages ago. I valued peace and quiet. While he cared about maintaining a spotless public image, we each got what we wanted from the sham. Jiang Yu's lips lifted into a faint grin. Did you seek out other companions as well? Zhang Ming turned to face him and smiled suddenly. The entertainment circle is a murky place, but there are decent women within it. Take Wang Charan for example. She's swarmed by trolls, yet she's a kind person. I was asking about you. Jiang Yu's gaze held steady on her. Zhang Ming blinked, her smile growing more teasing. Me? She paused, a glint of mischief in her eyes. You can think of me as someone unbound by rigid moral standards. With that, she stepped forward once more, nearly pressing her frame against his. Jiang Yu frowned slightly and nodded toward the washroom. Go bathe first. Zhang Ming blinked, processing his words. You think I'm too dirty to be around? Jiang Yu nodded honestly. Zhang Ming rolled her eyes but obediently walked into the washroom, the sound of running water echoing out soon after. Jiang Yu thought for a moment and opened the trade market interface. He traded a small crab for 3 sets of clothing, picking out a gown. It was a black gradient sequined mermaid slip gown. He walked to the washroom door, pushed it open slightly, and passed the dress inside. A few minutes later, the washroom door swung open and Zhang Ming stepped out. Jiang Yu lifted his head, his eyes flickering with surprise. She had changed into the evening gown, her damp hair loose over her shoulders with a few strands clinging to her cheeks. The dress clung perfectly to every curve of her body, cinching her narrow waist. The gown flared into a mermaid's skirt at the knees, revealing smooth, pale calves. Her figure was far softer and fuller than Yi Qingshue's slender frame. The gown's low neckline curved gently with every breath she took, drawing the eye to her silhouette. Without the grime and dishevelment of earlier, she looked like a star stepping straight off a red carpet, radiant, with a mature, captivating grace that was hard to ignore. Do I look nice? Zhang Ming spun slowly in front of him, the skirt fluttering softly. Jiang Yu scanned her from head to toe and nodded. It suits you well. Zhang Ming pouted lightly. Is that all you have to say? She leaned closer, almost touching him, her eyes crinkling with amusement. Jiang Yu reached out and pulled her gently into his arms. Zhang Ming did not resist. Instead, she wrapped her arms loosely around his neck and giggled. So you do find me appealing after all. Jiang Yu lowered his head to meet her gaze, a faint smile on his face. You said you were unbound by strict morals? Zhang Ming blinked playfully. Are you afraid of me now? Jiang Yu laughed. Afraid? I'm only curious just how bold you are. Zhang Ming's smile deepened, leaning close to his ear to whisper a quiet remark. A warm light flashed in Jiang Yu's eyes, and he lifted her into his arms, walking toward the large bed in the cabin. Night fell heavy outside the window. By the boulders, the other women had already guessed Zhang Ming had gone to his cabin. Their expressions were tangled with complex emotions. Megan muttered in frustration. I can't believe she got there before any of us. Hilton sighed. We'll wait. She won't stay there all night. Deng Yuzhen let out a soft sigh. Is it really this difficult now? The small island fell unusually quiet that night. Only the crash of waves against the reef and faint chirps of insects broke the silence. Yet the women huddled beneath the boulders lay wide awake, unable to sleep. Normally exhaustion would send them to sleep. They usually slept before 10 o'clock, but tonight rest eluded every single one of them. For one thing, hunger gnawed relentlessly at their stomachs, a burning hollow ache plaguing them nonstop. It was a miracle all these delicate women had endured starvation for days. For another, fear of an unknown future weighed heavy on their minds. No one could predict what tomorrow would bring. As midnight struck, the system's notification echoed in every survivor's mind at the exact same moment. Ding! The 4th day of the apocalypse has concluded. Today's death toll, 1.1 billion. Current surviving population, 3.6 billion. Cause of death, figure it out yourselves. I'm too lazy to list them. Friendly reminder, the trial period ends in one final day. All players, hold on. Great surprises await once it concludes. There will also be grave dangers. However, zombies and mutated beasts will gain drastically enhanced abilities, so prepare accordingly. Hearing those staggering numbers, the women's hearts turned cold. Over 6 billion people had perished in just 4 days out of the original 10 billion population. They held little hope for the so-called surprise the system promised. The news of stronger zombies and mutated beasts sank their spirits completely. The global public chat channel erupted with despairing messages. Forget the surprise, it's nothing but terror. Zombies and mutated beasts are already nearly impossible to fight off. Making them stronger is just a death sentence for us all. A distraught female player sobbed through a voice message. When will this suffering end? Is there anyone who can save me? Her words cut off abruptly with a shrill scream. Ah, there's a mutated boar heading straight for me. Somebody help. Silence fell over the channel a moment later, everyone assuming she had been killed, a merciful release from the endless torment. Another survivor sent a manic voice clip. This is the apocalypse, so we have to grit our teeth and push through. Wu Ritian, won't bow to this cruel system, huh? His wild laughter faded instantly, replaced by raw terror. A pack of mutated teddy bears are attacking me. I'll fight you all. Snarling and desperate cries filled the channel next. I'm sorry, system. Spare my life. The screams dwindled slowly until there was no sound at all. The chat channel stayed silent for 3 full seconds before the tone shifted drastically. Stay strong, everyone. The system's promised surprise must be worth waiting for. Great system. This survival trial is such a thrilling experience. I can't wait to see what challenges come next. Dear system, I've followed every rule faithfully. Please don't target me. Having witnessed the system's ruthless nature, every survivor's survival instinct kicked in. They were too afraid to voice any criticism in case they became the next victim to die. Lying on the bed, Jiang Yu listened to the chaotic chatter from the public channel for a moment, feeling a flicker of unease. He had complained about the system countless times before, especially when he struggled to trade for firearms. He counted himself lucky the system had never punished him for his complaints. Zhang Ming lay beside him, her breathing soft as she rested her head against his chest. She was tracing light patterns on his torso with her fingertips. Noticing his uneasy expression, she grew curious. Do you think I'm too much trouble, or is something else weighing on your mind? Her voice was lazy, tinged with faint weariness. Zhang Yu glanced down at her. Her cheeks still held a soft flush, her features glowing like a fully bloomed rose. You're far from intimidating, he said with a faint smile. I was just listening to the public chat and thinking about a few things. Zhang Ming blinked, curious. What about? Nothing worth mentioning. He had no intention of admitting he feared the system's wrath. Zhang Ming did not press for details, only giggled softly, a playful glint in her eyes. Are you rested enough now? Jiang Yu had no hesitation, fresh energy surging through him. He rolled over to continue their quiet conversation. Zhang Ming let out a soft gasp before falling silent. The room filled only with gentle, quiet murmurs for hours after. It was past 3 in the early morning when Zhang Ming finally left Jiang Yu's cabin. She leaned against the doorframe, the cool sea breeze brushing against her skin, making her legs feel weak and unsteady. Her face held a mix of exhaustion and faint regret. I shouldn't have teased him so much earlier. He has no mercy when we talk for hours on end. How is he so full of energy anyway? Zhang Ming could not wrap her head around it. Every other survivor wasted away from starvation. Yet Jiang Yu had grown stronger and more muscular, far sturdier than any ordinary man. Even with his steady supply of food, such vitality was unheard of. She thought back to her husband, the film emperor, who wasted his days on trivial pleasures. He grew winded after brief interactions, yet he acted as if he was remarkable. Compared to Jiang Yu, he was utterly insignificant. She drew a deep breath, steadying her shaky legs as she slowly walked back toward the boulders where the other women waited. The women were scattered in small groups beneath the stone outcrop, and even though Zhang Ming moved as quietly as possible, she roused them all. None of them had slept soundly, plagued by endless hunger and anxious thoughts about the future. When they spotted Zhang Ming returning, every pair of eyes locked onto her, filled with mixed emotions. She wore a brand new silver nightgown. The sequined evening gown she'd worn hours earlier left discarded inside the cabin. Her hair fell loose over her shoulders, faint color still lingering on her cheeks, and she looked far more lively and energized than the haggard woman who'd left their group earlier. In one hand, she carried an opaque cloth bag whose contents no one could make out clearly. Many of the women's eyes flickered with longing, tempted to head for Jiang Yu's cabin themselves. Megan and Hilton exchanged a glance and even stood to their feet, gazing toward the lit wooden house. Deng Yuzhen, Wang Churen, and the others also stared. Clear eagerness was written across their faces. Zhang Ming caught sight of their reactions and smiled to herself. She was glad she'd taken the initiative to speak with Jiang Yu first, rather than lingering here drowning in worry alongside everyone else. She walked over to the group gathered by the boulders and glanced at the women who'd stood up. Jiang Yu said he needs to rest now and doesn't wish to be disturbed. Hilton and Megan froze mid-step, their brows furrowing tightly in disappointment. Deng Yuzhen also halted, her face falling. Is that true? You wouldn't lie to us, would you? Hilton asked, unwilling to accept it. If you don't believe me, go knock on the door and find out for yourself, Zhang Ming replied with a knowing glance. Hilton gritted her teeth, but did not take a single step forward. Megan shook her head at her. Let it go. If we interrupt him while he rests, we'll only anger him. Hilton reluctantly sat back down, and Deng Yuzhen and the others followed suit. Still, the gnawing hunger in their stomachs only intensified, leaving them in constant discomfort. Zhang Ming did not return to Megan and Hilton's side. Instead, she walked straight over to the boulder where Yi Qingxue and Zhao Mingqi sat together. She now considered herself one of Jiang Yu's trusted companions and preferred to stay with the other women who shared his trust. Yi Qingxue watched her approach, her gaze lingering briefly on Zhang Ming's face before drifting to the bag in her hand. A faint smile tugged at her lips. Did Jiang Yu send you back with supplies? Zhang Ming paused, then smiled in response. You saw right through me. These are indeed supplies he asked me to bring to everyone. She knelt down and unzipped the cloth bag, revealing a mountain of golden mini loaves of bread that looked incredibly appetizing. Yi Qingxue recognized the bread. She had handed out the same loaves to the women earlier that day. She also knew how Jiang Yu had obtained them. He traded a serving of braised fish for 2 full crates of the bread. Another survivor, who had hidden alone with a stockpile of bread for 4 days, finally gave in to his craving for a hot meal. He traded all his loaves for the fish dish. A soft smile spread across Yi Qingxue's cold, stunning features. It seems he's finally listened to my advice to share food with everyone. The trial period is drawing to a close. Please leave updates requests. Earlier, while eating in Jiang Yu's room, she briefly mentioned the other women outside. Even though they caught a fish yesterday, it only eased their hunger a little. If things stay like this, something terrible is bound to happen soon. She looked at Jiang Yu and analyzed calmly. You might not care about them, but the system could hand out rewards for helping them. Besides, most of them want to come find you. You've just been too busy these past 2 days to spare time. A faint blush tinted her voice as she finished speaking. Jiang Yu only hummed, saying he'd think about it and let them go hungry a while longer. Yi Qingxue sighed inwardly, thinking how impressively patient and self-restrained Jiang Yu was. It was past 3 in the early morning when he finally sent Zhang Ming back with bread. Still, Zhang Ming had returned at the perfect moment, right as Megan, Hilton, and the others were about to head over to look for Jiang Yu. Yi Qingxue glanced at Zhang Ming, a thought crossing her mind. She suspected Jiang Yu had given Zhang Ming further instructions. If the women acted out, she wasn't to hand over any bread at all. He'd only let her distribute food once their behavior was acceptable. What a cold, unyielding man, Yi Qingxue muttered, glancing toward his small cabin. She felt a surge of relief, glad she'd gone to seek him out herself. Otherwise, she'd be the one starving right now. Lost in her thoughts, she watched the unzipping. She watched as Zhang Ming unzipped the bag. Su Zixuan and Chen Sisi, standing closest, caught sight of the bread first, their eyes lighting up instantly. Where did this come from? Did Jiang Yu send it? Su Zixuan blurted out, her tone urgent. Zhang Ming smiled at her. Of course Jiang Yu sent me with these. He couldn't bear to watch you all starve, so he specially sent this bag to share among everyone. She drew extra emphasis on the words couldn't bear, lacing her tone with teasing mockery. Su Zixuan froze, then pursed her lips in disbelief. That heartless man caring about their suffering? The sun would rise in the west before that happened. Even so, her gaze stayed glued to the loaves, unable to look away. Chen Sisi was no better off. The commotion drew the rest of the women over. No one could sleep anymore, crowding around the bag. When they saw what was inside, none of them could tear their eyes away. Only those who'd endured severe hunger could understand that desperate longing. They'd been worrying about empty bellies just moments before, and now they ached to grab the bread, yet none dared. The food belonged to Jiang Yu, and they wouldn't dare take it without permission. Is Jiang Yu really giving us food? Megan asked, amazed. Zhang Ming shot her a glance. What else do you think I'm carrying bread for in the middle of the night? It's all for you. Megan fell silent, embarrassed. Zhang Ming scanned the circle of women staring fixedly at the bread and smiled. Jiang Yu said this bread is for every one of you. 2 pieces each. It's not much, but it'll tide you over through tomorrow. The women all felt like they were dreaming. That ruthless man had unexpectedly shown kindness. Regardless, food was food, and gratitude welled up inside each of them. They were truly famished. A small loaf would restore their energy, letting them head out to search for supplies again the next day. Let's pass them out quickly, Yi Qingxue stepped in. She stepped beside Zhang Ming, picked up 2 small loaves, and handed them to Su Zixuan, who stared longingly at the bread. Zhou Jiai and Zhao Mingqi stepped in to help, and soon every woman had received 2 pieces of bread. Yi Qingxue and her companions already had their own provisions, so they took none for themselves. Jean Tanying, overcome with hunger, tore open her packaging at once and nibbled slowly, afraid to finish her bread too fast. Qin Fei and Qin Sisi followed. Most of the other women, however, couldn't bear to eat yet. They carefully tucked their bread into their pockets to save for the next day. Many glanced toward Jiang Yu's cabin, but its lights were already out. He must have fallen asleep. A tangled mix of emotions stirred in their hearts. Deng Yuzhen and the others silently resolved to seek a chance to visit Jiang Yu the next day. Once the bread was distributed, the women scattered to their resting spots in small groups. They'd lain awake from hunger before. Now, unspoken thoughts kept them tossing and turning. Zhang Ming leaned against a boulder, rubbing her sore waist before yawning widely. I'm exhausted. I'm going to sleep. She closed her eyes and drifted off. She fell asleep almost immediately, worn out from the day's labor, sleeping soundly. Yi Qingxue watched her, fully understanding how drained she was, a faint soft smile tugging at her lips. Zhou Jiai and Zhao Mengqi also settled down to rest. The area beneath the rocks slowly fell quiet, the long night finally drawing to an end. Dawn broke early the next morning. Jiang Yu woke as soon as the sky paled, glancing out the window to see it was still very early. He'd stayed up late after tiring himself out the night prior, showering before bed, and had slept deeply without strange dreams. He'd expended plenty of energy the evening before and had no wish to repeat the exertion in his sleep. He stretched, ready to rise, when a system chime suddenly rang out. Player the happiest man under heaven requests a private chat. Accept? Jiang Yu raised an eyebrow, a slow smile spreading across his face. The man worked fast. Messaging him at daybreak meant he'd almost certainly track down Lu Yuru. He accepted the chat request at once. Sure enough, as soon as the connection opened, Zhao Wei's excited voice echoed from the other side. Brother, I found Lu Yuru. His tone carried a clear note of seeking praise. Jiang Yu arched his brows, lips twitching upward. You really moved quickly. Of course. Your business is my top priority. I gave it my full attention. Zhao Wei paused, his tone turning hesitant. But there's a catch. What's wrong? Jiang Yu's curiosity piqued. She's with Zhang Jie right now, and her situation's pretty miserable. Zhao Wei's voice held a hint of pity, yet he hesitated, testing Jiang Yu's reaction. To his surprise, Jiang Yu let out a hearty laugh in response. That sounds like great news. Why do you sound so glum? Zhao Wei fell silent, confused. From what he knew, Jiang Yu had once loved Lu Yuru desperately. After their breakup, he drowned his sorrows in alcohol, nearly losing his job. Even though Jiang Yu had spoken of revenge before, Zhao Wei had thought those were just empty words spoken out of anger. He hadn't expected his friend to change. He hadn't expected him to have changed so completely, grown so cold-hearted. But thinking of Jiang Yu's incredible luck, Zhao Wei understood. Surrounded by dozens of stunning women, Lu Yuru was insignificant by comparison. A surge of bitter jealousy bubbled up. Why did Jiang Yu earn the system's favor, living comfortably on an island surrounded by women and constant rewards, while he himself wandered a barren desert, forced to bow to Dao Gu and live in constant fear for his life? Worst of all, Dao Gu had taken his own partner. Resentment burned hot in his chest, yet he forced a cheerful tone to agree aloud. You're right. This is the karmic retribution she deserves. I'll tell her to contact you straight away. He paused, adding another remark. Brother, you should have seen her face when she found out you're the player called Single Forever 250. Shock and fury all at once, ranting about how you'd gotten absurdly lucky for no reason. Jiang Yu's mouth curved faintly. He knew those were the exact thoughts swirling in Zhao Wei's own head. Fine, send her my way. He cut the private chat short. Less than a minute passed before another system alert chimed. Player weeping alone in a luxury BMW requests a private chat. Accept? Jiang Yu nearly laughed out loud reading the username. Weeping alone in a luxury BMW. When Lu Yuru had broken up with him, her final words had been memorable. You only earn 5,000 a month. You can never give me the life I want. I crave love inside a BMW, not plain days squeezed onto the back of a cheap bicycle. Now she'd gotten what she'd wanted, and sure enough, she was crying. A look of malicious amusement crossed Jiang Yu's face as he accepted the chat. Jiang Yu, is that you? Sniffle, sob. The second the line connected, a hoarse, broken cry came through, her voice barely recognizable through tears. Jiang Yu frowned. Is this Lu Yuru? It's me. I finally found you, Jiang Yu. She sobbed uncontrollably, overcome with grief. The wailing grated on Jiang Yu's nerves, and he spoke sharply. If you keep screaming like that, I'm hanging up. The crying cut off instantly, as if someone had clamped a hand over her throat. Lu Yuru fell silent for several long seconds, stunned. She couldn't believe Jiang Yu had spoken to her so harshly. Once, he'd never raised his voice to her, let alone snapped. When she'd ended their relationship, he'd begged her through red, teary eyes, promising he'd work harder to give her everything she wanted. She'd climbed into Zhang Jie's BMW without a backward glance, sneering to herself that the useless man would live in poverty forever. Later, when she heard he'd spent 3 days drunk over their split, she'd scoffed at his lack of pride. Now, however, Jiang Yu's tone was cold, as though speaking to a complete stranger. Sorrow and anger tangled inside her, yet her words carried nothing but remorseful weeping. Jiang Yu, I miss you so much. In this end times disaster, I finally realized you were the only one who truly cared for me. I regret everything. I truly do. Jiang Yu curled his lip in disdain. A soft knock sounded at his door mid-sentence. Curious, he mentally unlocked it, and Yi Qingxue stepped inside. She'd tied her long hair up loosely with a wooden stick that morning, looking fresh and neat. Spotting Jiang Yu mid-private chat, she hesitated, ready to retreat, but Jiang Yu waved her over. Yi Qingxue walked obediently to his side, and he pulled her gently into his arms, one hand resting around her waist. She didn't struggle, only tilted her head to look up at him, curiosity shining in her eyes. Without explaining the call, Jiang Yu spoke to Lu Yuru. What happened to your precious young master Zhang? When we split up, you swore his love was priceless, while mine was worthless trash. His voice dripped with sarcasm. Lu Yuru's sobs grew louder. I messed up. I was vain and betrayed you. I picked the wrong person. She choked out broken words. You have no idea how horribly I've suffered these past 2 days. It's pure hell. Zhang Jie, he's forced me to entertain his men to win their loyalty. Her voice shook with unmasked pain and hatred, and this part felt genuine. I've wanted to end my life dozens of times, but I held on, thinking of you. I needed to find you and say I'm sorry. Her crying intensified through the line. Resting against Jiang Yu's chest, Yi Qingxue listened to every word, her eyes flickering subtly. She met Jiang Yu's gaze, and silent shared amusement passed between them. This woman was a master performer. Anyone else might fall for her act, or the old version of Jiang Yu would have been crushed with heartache. Now, though, a mocking smirk tugged at his mouth. You don't need to apologize. His tone turned calm and flat. Thinking she'd softened his heart, Lu Yuru quieted her tears, rushing to speak. You've forgiven me? I knew you still loved me. That's not what I meant. Jiang Yu cut her off, sarcasm thick in his voice. If you hadn't left me, I never would have this good a life now. In fact, I ought to thank you. He glanced down at Yi Qingxue in his arms, smiling faintly. Thank you for revealing your true character, and for pushing me to meet someone far better. Lu Yuru went rigid with shock. What are you saying? I'm saying, Jiang Yu's voice turned icy cold. I don't hate you anymore. You can rest easy and give up on living. Dead silence fell on the other end of the chat. Lu Yuru opened her mouth to speak, yet no words came out. A playful glint flickered in Yi Qingxue's eyes as she heard his remark. She nestled quietly against his chest without a word. Meanwhile, Lu Yuru's heart sank to rock bottom. She'd never imagined Jiang Yu could be so ruthless, telling her outright to die. After a few seconds of silence, she burst into louder, more remorseful weeping. Jiang Yu, I wronged you. I know you hold resentment toward me. I don't ask for your forgiveness. I just need you to know you were the greatest love of my life. I'd die content having told you this. If you wish me dead, I'll grant your wish. Her tone rang with feigned resolve, as if preparing a final farewell. Jiang Yu sneered silently. She was pulling the classic reverse psychology trick, certain he'd rush to comfort her. Not a chance. Hold on a second, Jiang Yu interjected. Lu Yuru brightened, quieting her sobs. You don't stop me. Let me end it. I'm no longer worthy of you. Who said I planned to stop you? Jiang Yu's tone carried mocking amusement. Lu Yuru grew confused. Then, what do you want? Jiang Yu sounded almost eager. The system supports video calls, right? Turn your camera on so I can watch you follow through. That way I'll know for certain you're gone, instead of you pestering me again later. Lu Yuru completely lost her composure, dropping the sorrowful act entirely. Her voice turned shrill, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Jiang Yu, you monster! She shouted in unbridled rage and hurt. I used to be your lover. How can you be this cruel? Wanting to watch me die? Do you even have a shred of humanity left? Jiang Yu replied indifferently. I'll admit I loved you once. So what? What difference does that make? He let out a scoff. You dumped me without a second thought, remember? You looked down on my low salary and lack of status, climbing into another man's car without glancing back. Now you expect sympathy from me? What nonsense fills your head? I can't believe I once cared for someone like you. Each cutting line stabbed into Lu Yuru's heart. She trembled all over, lips quivering, yet unable to retort. Once, Jiang Yu had bowed his head deferentially around her, never daring to raise his voice. Now he was cold. He was sharp and utterly merciless. Lu Yuru forced herself to calm her boiling anger and resumed crying. Jiang Yu, for the sake of our past love, please help me. I truly have nowhere left to turn. She begged brokenly. Aren't you planning to take your own life? Jiang Yu sounded thoroughly annoyed. Why come begging for help before you die? Do you want me to send a blade over to make it easier for you? Lu Yuru hadn't expected him to speak so viciously. Hatred seethed inside her, yet she kept trying to placate him. I'll endure any insult if it eases your anger. Just please forgive me. Is that coward Zhang Jie beside you? Jiang Yu suddenly cut her off, his tone sharp and frigid. Tell him to speak for himself. Panic flashed through Lu Yuru, and she lied instinctively. No, he's not here. I'm alone. A sharp slap echoed through the chat channel, followed by an angry roar. You useless woman. You can't even handle this simple task. What good are you to me? The voice was cold and brutal. Jiang Yu narrowed his eyes. Zhang Jie had finally revealed himself. Zhang Jie's cold tone filtered through the chat. Jiang Yu, I never thought that worthless loser would grow such a big head now. Your former woman suffers terribly, and you show zero mercy. Are you even a man? Jiang Yu let out a mocking laugh. That was her own choice. I can only wish her well. But I have to say, young Master Zhang's generosity surprises me. Sacrificing your own partner to win over your followers means you've been made a cuckold, haven't you? Heavy, furious breathing came from Zhang Jie's side of the line. You damn bastard. You're asking to die? He roared, murderous rage thick in his voice. He and Lu Yuru had once stayed in a hotel together before being teleported to an abandoned village overrun with zombies. They'd survived by eating snakes, insects, rats, tree bark, and weeds. His companions were all burly men, fit trainers, and rough street thugs. Though Zhang Jie was tall and strong himself, he'd readily offered Lu Yuru to his men to secure their loyalty, barely clinging to his position. This matter had always been a thorn stuck in his heart. Now that Jiang Yu brought it up so casually, his cheeks burned as if he'd been slapped hard across the face. But why would Jiang Yu fear his threats? You're practically starving to death right now. Yet you still carry such arrogance. Jiang Yu's tone dripped with contempt. Do you really think you're still that useless rich heir you once were? Wake up. This is the apocalypse, and all your old tricks don't work anymore. As he spoke, his hand brushed lightly against her. He touched Yi Qingshue's waist in a casual, affectionate gesture. Yi Qingxue shuddered faintly and let out a soft gasp, grabbing his hand to hold it still. That quiet sound carried clearly over the private chat channel to Lu Yuru's ears. Her ears perked up instantly. Jiang Yu, who's that woman with you? Her voice shrilled with unbridled anger. Before Jiang Yu could reply, Yi Qingshue's icy tone cut through the line. Lu Yuru, watch your words. Her voice was cold and commanding, carrying authoritative weight from the old world. Lu Yuru froze. That voice sounded eerily familiar. She racked her brain for a second, then blurted out in disbelief. Why your President Yi? Yi Qingsue. Yi Qingsue made no attempt to deny it. How did you end up by Jiang Yu's side? Lu Yuru's voice trembled. Jiang Yu chuckled and pulled Yi Qingsue snugly against his chest. Why wouldn't she be? He sounded thoroughly pleased with himself. Didn't I mention I have more than 20 female companions? Qingsue is one of them, and she's chosen to stay now. He paused, as if mentally counting names. Oh right, there's also Zhao Mengqi, Zhou Jiai, Zhang Ming. All of them are close to me. Tell me, with women like them at my side, why would I ever spare a thought for someone like you? He emphasized sharply. Lu Yuru's face flushed bright red. She opened her mouth to hurl insults back, yet no words came out. Yi Qingsue, Zhao Mengqi, Zhou Jiai, Zhang Ming. Any single one of those women was far more beautiful than her. What did she have to compete with? Meanwhile, Zhang Jie could barely contain his agitation. He knew exactly who Yi Qingsue was, the cold, aloof corporate president he'd glimpsed once at a cocktail party, whose beauty had left him utterly stunned. Back then, she hadn't spared him a single glance. Now she aligned with him. His face turned livid, his teeth grinding together with a harsh creak. Yi Qingsue, I never imagined a woman as cold and refined as you would attach yourself to a good-for-nothing. At his words, Yi Qingshue's expression grew even frostier. She replied flatly, a man who would abandon the woman beside him to save himself has no right to call anyone worthless. Yi Qingshue's comment sent Zhang Jie flying into a rage. He's nothing but dead weight. His tone was thick with scorn. You acted so high and mighty in the past, yet now you willingly follow this useless man. How degrading. Lu Yuru chimed in beside him, her words sharp and vicious. President Yi, even I thought that man was beneath me, yet you've latched onto him. I never would have guessed. Are you that starved for company after being alone so long? She'd fully dropped her polite pretense, revealing her true nasty nature. You're defending a man who groveled to me just to gain my favor. How pitiful can you get? Yi Qingxue frowned, ready to retort, when Zhao Mengqi, Zhang Meng, and Zhou Jiai stepped through the doorway. They'd overheard every word from the private chat, and Zhao Mengqi was the first to lose her patience. So you're the ex-girlfriend Master told us about? She walked over to stand beside Jiang Yu and spoke directly toward the chat channel, her voice laced with mockery. I can tell just by listening to you that you're shameless. You dare call Master a groveler? Take a good look at the man standing next to you. Ask yourself what kind of person he really is. She never backed down from a verbal fight. Zhang Meng jumped in, a cold smirk tugging at her lips. That's right. Ask him if he can feed you instant noodles, make spicy fish hot pot, sour fish soup, or serve steak. She paused, brimming with pride. For your information, Jiang Yu has all of those things in abundance. On the other end of the chat, several loud swallowing sounds echoed through the speakers. It wasn't only Lu Yuru and Zhang Jia. Their entire group had heard. The food Zhang Meng described held overwhelming allure for them. They hadn't even eaten such delicacies every day before the apocalypse, and now they didn't dare dream of them at all. And this man named Jiang Yu had access to all of it? Lu Yuru screamed shrilly. You're lying. Jiang Yu's just a worthless nobody who got lucky. There's no way he has all that food. You're all making it up. Her voice pierced the air, her composure completely shattered. A cold, mocking smile curved Jiang Yu's lips as he listened. He stood, walked to the kitchen, boiled water, and opened a bucket of instant noodles, pouring in the seasoning packet. The argument raged on, though it was nothing more than Lu Yuru's hysterical ranting now. Zhang Meng vividly described the spicy fish hot pot. The fish fillets were sliced paper thin, curling the second they hit the boiling broth, tender and snow white. Dipped in savory sauce, they melted on your tongue the moment you took a bite. With every sentence she spoke, the sound of hungry swallowing grew louder. Zhang Jia could endure it no longer, his voice dark and menacing. Shut your mouth, you witch. He only got lucky because the system picked him. What's so impressive about that? Without the system, he'd still be a useless failure. At this, the four women laughed. Zhang Meng sneered. Lucky? If you're so capable, why don't you get the system to favor you? Then Jiang Yu would be the one answering to you. Her tone dripped with disdain. You're consumed by jealousy, yet you claim he only relies on the system. Strip away your family's wealth, and you're just as useless as you say he is. How dare you judge him? Zhang Jia was left speechless, his breathing heavy and labored with fury. Lu Yuru still refused to back down. So what if he has system rewards? Feeding all of you dead weight will drain his supplies, and you'll all starve alongside him sooner or later. Zhang Meng was about to fire back when Jiang Yu cut her off. He poured the boiling water into the instant noodle bowl unhurriedly. He said, I'm relieved to hear the two of you are suffering so badly. My life is none of your concern. I'll live comfortably alongside these women. As for the pair of you, your time is running out. Lu Yuru and Zhang Jia let out mocking snorts. Have you lost your mind, Jiang Yu? We're miles apart. What can you possibly do to us? Zhang Jia's voice turned icy. You'll be the one to die first. Though I hope you cling to life long enough for us to cross paths one day. When that happens, I'll make you kneel and beg for mercy. Jiang Yu's lips twisted into a sneer. I doubt you'll ever get that chance. He glanced at the steaming instant noodles, his tone shifting to something playful. Your scene has dragged on far too long. Readers will complain if I waste more time on you too, so I can't afford to delay any further. Zhang Jia and Lu Yuru on the other end were utterly confused, unable to parse his meaning. Jiang Yu tossed out an unexpected question. Who wants a bucket of instant noodles? Dead silence fell over the chat channel. Jiang Yu continued speaking to the unseen crowd on their side. Whoever brings me proof that these two troublemakers are dealt with gets the noodles. You have exactly 10 minutes. His voice remained calm, yet Zhang Jia's face paled with terror. He spun sharply to stare at his followers, who were now gazing back at him with an unreadable glint in their eyes. There was no trace of respect or obedience in their stares, only the ravenous hunger of starved wolves eyeing prey. A cold chill shot down Zhang Jia's spine, and he shouted frantically at Lu Yuru. Quick, cut the private chat connection. Lu Yuru fumbled clumsily to end the call, her face ashen. What did he just say? Her voice shook uncontrollably. Zhang Jia ignored her, scanning the surrounding men with wary eyes. Their makeshift settlement was an abandoned village. Collapsed brick walls leaned crookedly overhead, dried, Emaciated corpses littered the ground. A thick stench of rot hung heavy in the air. They'd originally numbered more than 20, yet only 13 remained. Starvation had left all of them gaunt, their eyes glazed and hungry. Every single person had heard Jiang Yu's offer. Just the thought of warm instant noodles made several men swallow hard. Sweat soaked Zhang Jie's palms as he glanced at his followers, noticing their stares growing increasingly hostile. A few men had even begun licking their lips. Don't listen to his nonsense. Zhang Jie forced a steady tone, though his voice wavered. It's just one bucket of instant noodles. Once we track down more food, we can eat as much as we want. No one replied. They simply stared at him, a pack of starving predators fixated on their target. Panic surged through Zhang Jie, and a desperate plan popped into his head. He pointed at Lu Yuru and yelled to the group. Aren't you all eager for her company? You can all take turns with her today. Once you're done, we'll head out to hunt for food. Lu Yuru's eyes widened in shock as she stared at Zhang Jie in disbelief. Zhang Jie, what are you saying? Are you even human? Zhang Jie raised his hand and slapped her hard across the cheek. Shut up, witch. If it weren't for you, I'd never have ended up in this mess. Lu Yuru clutched her stinging cheek, hot tears streaming down her face, her lips trembling too much to speak. But none of the men moved toward her. Their gazes remained locked on Zhang Jie and Lu Yuru, their intentions crystal clear. They felt no desire for Lu Yuru, only ravenous craving for food. Lu Yuru's hair was matted, her clothes tattered, and her body covered in fresh wounds from past mistreatment. She held no appeal to them whatsoever. The instant noodles, however, offered an irresistible temptation. Seeing their unyielding stares, Zhang Jie's heart sank, and his body trembled uncontrollably. Lu Yuru finally grasped the danger they faced and pleaded with the men around her. He's lying to all of you. Don't fall for Jiang Yu's trick. Yet the men exchanged quick glances, silently conveying the same urgent thought. We're running out of time. After the private chat cut off, Jiang Yu paid the matter no more mind. If Zhang Jie's followers possessed any shred of sense, they would reach out to him soon enough. Trading 2 lives for a single bucket of instant noodles was an unbeatable bargain. He held no lingering feelings for Lu Yuru whatsoever. She'd discarded him for Zhang Jie when he'd lacked wealth, then sought to make trouble for him afterward. The fate she now faced was nothing less than she deserved. A private chat request popped up from Zhao Wei, but Jiang Yu ignored it. Shaking off these thoughts, Jiang Yu glanced at the 4 women inside the room. We've eaten rich seafood and meat the past couple days, so we'll have fried rice with eggs for breakfast this morning. He'd deliberately cooked an extra large pot of rice the night before, planning to turn it into egg fried rice at dawn. The 4 women were simply grateful to have a meal at all and dared not voice complaints. They knew full well that any criticism from them would result in Jiang Yu sending them outside straight away. The ocean sat right beyond the door. If they wandered too far into the waves, they'd never need another meal again. Does anyone here know how to cook? Jiang Yu opened the storage refrigerator and pulled out 4 eggs. With women around to assist, he saw no need to handle the cooking himself. The 4 women glanced at one another awkwardly. Yi Qingxue was a corporate executive who'd never lifted a finger to cook a meal in her life. Zhang Meng was an actress whose husband had been a renowned film star. She'd never once stepped foot in a kitchen. Zhao Mingqi's talents lay entirely in other areas. Only Zhou Jiai, once a wealthy heiress, spoke up. I know how to cook. All right, you handle the frying. Zhou Jiai nodded, and the other 3 women stood by to help with prep work. The kitchen was far too cramped for 4 people to work comfortably, so Zhou Jiai gently sent them outside to wait and set about cooking alone. Jiang Yu sat beside a foldable table, tapping his fingertips rhythmically against the surface. Tap, tap, tap. The slow, steady sound echoed like a grim countdown. 3 minutes passed. Ding. A system notification chimed. Player, I'd rather my brothers betray me, requests a private chat. Accept? A faint smile tugged at Jiang Yu's mouth. Here we go. He opened the chat channel, and a hoarse male voice spoke from the other side, filled with urgent hesitation. Mr. Jiang, is what you said genuine? Can I see the instant noodles first? Jiang Yu instructed the system to send a photo through the chat window. The picture showed a steaming bucket of braised beef instant noodles, springy noodles soaking in thick, rich broth, looking incredibly appetizing. Silence stretched out on the other end. Jiang Yu spoke unhurriedly. You have 2 minutes remaining. Please wait a moment, the man replied instantly. 2 minutes later, an image arrived in their chat window. Jiang Yu ordered the system to pull it up and zoom in. In the photograph, 2 bodies lay motionless on the ground, soaked in pools of blood. Zhang Jie wore a floral shirt, his chest pierced by multiple stab wounds that stained the fabric crimson. Lu Yuru crumpled beside him, a deep ligature mark wrapped around her neck, her tongue slightly protruding, her face a sickly bluish purple. Both pairs of eyes remained wide open, frozen with terror and unresolvable regret. Jiang Yu stared at the photo without the slightest flicker of emotion, as if gazing at two crushed insects. Well done. He sent those 4 short words, then transferred the bucket of instant noodles through the system interface. A flash of white light appeared, and the noodles vanished from his storage. He paid no mind to how the men would split the single bucket among themselves. The egg fried rice is ready. At that moment, Zhou Jiai carried over a pot full of golden, fragrant fried rice, its rich aroma filling the entire room. Even Jiang Yu's appetite stirred, and he silently acknowledged that she truly excelled at domestic tasks. The other 3 women had already grabbed bowls, scooping a full portion for Jiang Yu first before serving themselves and digging in eagerly. Jiang Yu took a bite and savored the satisfying flavor. As he ate, he mapped out his plans for the day. This was the final day of the trial phase. Once midnight passed, zombies and mutated beasts would complete their evolution, rendering the apocalypse far deadlier than before. Before that time came, he needed to stockpile as much food as possible. He now had access to a yacht, and he'd asked Yi Qingxue yesterday. She knew exactly how to operate the vessel. Today, they could sail farther out to sea to fish. His handheld casting net only worked along shallow shorelines, useless in water deeper than 7 or 8 meters. To catch larger quantities of seafood, he needed a small trawl net. The net resembled a large fabric sack, dragged behind the boat to scoop up schools of fish and shrimp as they traveled. Today would be the perfect chance to bring in a massive haul. Determined to act at once, Jiang Yu set down his bowl and opened the player trading market. He traded a 1-gene fish for several different styles of fishing nets to avoid wasting resources. Master, what do you plan to do with all these nets? Zhao Mingqi asked curiously. Jiang Yu turned toward Yi Qingxue instead. Later, you'll steer the yacht and take me out to deeper waters to fish. The women's eyes lit up at his words. They no longer doubted Jiang Yu's remarkable fishing skill. They wondered how huge their catch would be once they reached the deeper sea. Yi Qingxue nodded without hesitation. Understood. The other 3 women asked cautiously, can we come along too? Jiang Yu glanced over them. You may tag along if you wish, but remember the rule, don't create trouble for me. The 3 nodded vigorously. After packing their supplies, Jiang Yu led the 4 women out of the small cabin. The sun shone bright overhead. A gentle sea breeze swept across the shore, and sunlight shimmered across the distant waves. They'd barely stepped outside when a clear voice called out, Jiang Yu. They turned to see Deng Yuzhen and Wang Churen walking toward them from beneath the giant boulder. Deng Yuzhen wore a cream camisole bodycon dress. Though of average height, she had an attractive figure, yet exhaustion weighed heavily on her features. Wang Churen still wore her silver sequined evening gown, its hem caked in mud. All its former glamour faded away. The 2 women hurried over, spotting the trawl net in Jiang Yu's hands. Are you heading out somewhere? Yi Qingxue caught the flicker of disappointment in their eyes, guessing they'd come to seek Jiang Yu out, only to find him preparing to leave. When Jiang Yu nodded in confirmation, Deng Yuzhen masked her dejection, her gaze fixed on the casting net in his grasp. She hesitated for a moment before speaking softly. Jiang Yu, could we borrow your handheld casting net? Deng Yuzhen rushed to explain. Last night you sent us bread through Zhongmeng, but we only received 2 pieces each, not nearly enough to fill our stomachs. We wanted to try our luck along the shore and catch some fish or shrimp. Her voice grew quieter as she finished speaking. The 4 women beside Jiang Yu watched the exchange without speaking a word. They knew Jiang Yu's strict rules and dared not interfere in his decisions. Jiang Yu swept a cold glance over the 2 women and replied, Have you forgotten my terms? Yesterday's bread was a one-time exception. Deng Yuzhen met his gaze squarely. Jiang Yu, we desperately need food. We're willing to accept whatever conditions you set, but could we put off fulfilling them for now? We're far too hungry to hold out much longer. Wang Churen added her plea. We swear we won't renege on our agreement. Please help us just this once. These 2 women, one a top celebrity from Annan and the other a famous Chinese star, now stood before him begging humbly. Jiang Yu watched them in silence for several seconds. He could tell they were truly crippled by starvation. Still, since they'd agreed to his terms, he had no fear they would back out on their word. Wait here. Jiang Yu turned and walked back into the cabin, retrieving the handheld casting net from the corner. He walked over to hand the net to them, speaking in a flat tone. Don't push your luck if you fail to catch anything. No one will come to your rescue if danger finds you. He worried they would fail to uphold their end of the bargain if something befell them. Deng Yuzhen accepted the net with both hands, her eyes growing watery. Thank you, Jiang Yu. Wang Churen bowed repeatedly. Thank you so much." Jiang Yu waved his hand, paid them no more heed, and walked toward the yacht with the 4 women in tow. Deng Yuzhen and Wang Churen stood rooted to the spot, watching their receding figures with a twinge of envy, then exchanged a bitter smile. "He's truly cold-hearted," Wang Churen sighed. "I suppose only Yi Qingxue and the others can get even a hint of warmth from this man." Deng Yuzhen glanced down at the fishing net in her hands. "Don't dwell on it. Let's head over and try our luck fishing first." The 2 women hurried toward the cluster of boulders. They no longer seemed to mind the tasks they had to complete in exchange for food and safety. Jiang Yu and the 4 women reached the yacht. The previous day, Megan and the others had moored the vessel to a reef with a tightly knotted rope that had swollen stiff from seawater. Jiang Yu gave it a couple of firm tugs before it came undone. The cabin had received a basic tidy-up and looked reasonably clean. Yi Qingxue climbed onto the helm deck to check the fuel gauge and control panel, familiarizing herself with the throttle and buttons. She had operated a yacht a handful of times before. She was no expert, but she could handle short coastal voyages without trouble. A low rumble echoed as the engine sputtered to life. "We're setting off," Yi Qingxue said, pushing the throttle forward. The yacht drifted slowly away from the shore, its bow cutting through bright blue seawater to carve 2 trails of white foam. Sea wind whipped through the women's hair. Zhang Ming stood at the bow, arms outstretched, closing her eyes and drawing in a deep breath. "Wow, this feels nothing like the end of the world. It's almost like we're on vacation." Zhou Jiai leaned against the gunwale, staring out at the hazy line where sea met sky, overcome with a surreal sense of unreality. Zhao Mingqi stayed inside the cabin, white-knuckling the handrail, her face pale with seasickness. She dared not utter a word of complaint. Jiang Yu had warned anyone who caused trouble would be tossed overboard as fish bait, so she endured the nausea silently. Jiang Yu stood at the bow, sweeping his gaze across the open water to survey their surroundings. "Steer southeast." He pointed toward deeper, darker blue water, a spot likely teeming with schools of fish. Yi Qingxue adjusted their course at once. Back on the island, the remaining women were gathered to discuss how to fish with hand-cast nets. When they spotted the yacht gliding across the waves, complicated expressions crossed every face. Su Lishuan leaned against a rock, her floral night dress billowing lightly in the coastal breeze. She held the small bread roll she'd been allocated the night before, halfway eaten. Chen Sisi stood beside her, legs held straight, her gaze fixed firmly on the departing yacht. "They've left," Su Lishuan murmured, her tone tinged with quiet melancholy. Chen Sisi only hummed in reply, offering no further comment. Over the past 2 days, they had hoped to seek out Jiang Yu, yet he had been constantly occupied and had never given them the chance to speak with him alone. The other women watched the boat go, each wearing a unique look of longing and dejection, lost in their own thoughts. The yacht cruised for roughly 20 minutes before Jiang Yu told Yi Qingxue to slow down. He stood at the bow and studied the sea carefully. The water here was a deep sapphire blue, indicating considerable depth. Seabirds circled overhead now and then, a clear sign of fish beneath the waves. Further out, a patch of darker water marked a meeting point of ocean currents, rich with plankton that drew small fish and the larger predators that fed on them. Jiang Yu knew they had found an ideal fishing ground. "Drop anchor here," he ordered. Yi Qingxue brought the yacht to a halt. Jiang Yu hauled out a small trawl net and inspected it thoroughly. Repurposed from a single gill net, it stretched 20 meters long. It was fitted with floats along the upper edge and sinkers along the bottom to open wide like a large sack. The mesh openings were fist-sized, designed to trap medium and large fish while letting tiny fry slip through. He tied one end of the net securely to the stern with a tight knot, then lifted the netting section by section and fed it over the side into the sea. The floats bobbed on the surface while the weighted bottom pulled the net downward, unfurling it into a wide funnel shape beneath the waves. "All set. Move forward at a slow pace," Jiang Yu instructed Yi Qingxue. She restarted the engine and cruised gently, the trawl dragging behind the boat like a giant pouch sweeping through the water. Jiang Yu remained at the stern, scanning the sea surface and directing minor course adjustments based on his experience. After dragging the net for around 15 minutes, Jiang Yu judged they had covered enough distance and told Yi Qingxue to stop the engine. Time to haul the net in. Pulling it back aboard demanded immense physical strength. The trawl was heavy, filled with seawater and a full catch of fish, altogether weighing at least 100 to 150 kilos. An ordinary adult could never pull it up single-handedly. But Jiang Yu's physical stats had doubled, granting him far greater strength and stamina than average survivors. Zhou Jiai, Zhang Ming, and Zhao Mengqi also stepped forward to lend a hand. Jiang Yu gripped the thick haul rope and pulled it upward bit by bit, veins bulging on his forearms as his muscles tensed. Fine beads of sweat formed on his forehead. The net rose slowly out of the sea, water cascading off its woven threads. Zhou Jiai grasped the edge of the rope, with Zhang Ming and Zhao Mingqi pulling from further back. Even combined, the three women could not match his raw strength, yet their help lightened the burden significantly. Zhao Mengqi's eyes locked onto the net, and she gasped in delight. "There are fish. I can see them," Zhang Ming shouted right after her. "So many of them. Good heavens, look at all the fish." As the full net pouch broke the surface, every person on board fell silent, stunned by the haul. Silvery fish writhed densely together, glinting brightly under the sunlight, their tails slapping against the water and sending droplets flying everywhere. Gritting his teeth, Jiang Yu heaved hard, dragging the heavy net onto the gunwale, bracing it with one knee to untie the securing cord at the mouth of the trawl. With a loud splash, the entire catch spilled across the deck, flopping and thrashing wildly. Glossy silver hairtail, golden croaker, pale gray sea bass, and several fist-sized swimming crabs waving their pincers lay mixed together. A few cuttlefish squirted dark ink, staining a wide patch of the wooden deck black. Ignoring the mess underfoot, the three women knelt down to sort through the catch, overcome with joy. "We've caught such a huge haul. This should feed us all for ages." Jiang Yu knelt to tally their take. The largest catch was a slender Spanish mackerel with a deep indigo back, weighing close to 8 kilos. This single fish alone would supply several meals. A second, slightly smaller mackerel weighed around 6 kilos. There were 2 or 3 sea bass, the largest at nearly 4 kilos and the smallest over 2.5. Their pale gray scales shimmering in the sun. One black porgy and one grouper, each weighing roughly 2 kilos. They hid deep within the pile and were easy to overlook at first glance. 2 or 3 golden croaker, each over 1 kilo, shone bright yellow among the rest. Several hairtail gleamed silver, the longest stretching more than a meter. Mixed with all these were smaller assorted fish, crabs and cuttlefish, bringing the total weight of their catch to roughly 40 kilos. "This will suffice," Jiang Yu nodded in satisfaction. Combined with the leftover fish stored back at his hut, there was more than enough seafood to feed all 20-plus survivors on the island for 6 or 7 days. He stood and wiped sweat from his forehead, glancing at the three women still excitedly sorting the catch on deck. "Stop fooling around. Clean up the deck and get ready to head back." Zhang Ming stared at a 2-kilo sea bass, her eyes crinkling into happy half-moons. "Jiang Yu, can we cook this fish for dinner tonight? I'd love steamed sea bass." Jiang Yu shot her a brief glance and said nothing. Zhang Ming pouted slightly, but did not dare press the matter further. Watching the lively scene before her, a bright, genuine smile softened Yi Qingshue's usually cool features. She restarted the yacht, turned the vessel around, and set a course back toward their island. Inside the cabin, Zhou Jiai and the other two women knelt on the deck, sorting the fish by size into buckets. Crabs and cuttlefish went into separate containers to stop them from being crushed under the heavier fish. Jiang Yu sat alone at the bow to rest, sea wind drying the sweat from his skin. As the island drew closer into view, his mind raced to plan their next steps. When the yacht neared the shore, the women who had been foraging along the beach jumped up and rushed over at the sound of the engine. They had fished with hand-thrown nets and managed a modest haul of small fish and crabs after great effort. They narrowly avoided falling into the choppy surf several times. They had been elated with their small catch until they saw the returning yacht. Yet when they caught sight of the overflowing buckets of fish stacked on the deck, every woman froze, eyes wide with shock. There's so much seafood. Deng Yuzhen stood at the front of the crowd, mouth agape in disbelief. Wang Churen clapped a hand over her mouth, pure envy shining in her eyes. The rest of the women looked equally stunned. They had once celebrated catching a single 5-kilo fish, splitting it into tiny portions for everyone. Meanwhile, Jiang Yu's short trip had yielded 2 enormous mackerel, plus dozens of medium and large-sized fish. The gap between their limited luck and his abundant supplies was staggering. Su Lishuan and Chen Sisi shared a quiet glance, nodded at one another as if reaching a silent agreement. Then they stole a quick, thoughtful look toward Jiang Yu.